Hi everyone, thank you for being here. I'm really glad to be here. France is one of my favorite places to be in to do activism. Every time I've come to Paris, we had an amazing cube, and the energy of the activists is just always motivating me even more. This is my first time here in Avignon, so I'm really excited to do a cube, and I'm so glad to see so many people showing up for this workshop. Before we get into the workshop, I would like to tell you a little bit about the history of AV. So AV was born in Melbourne, Australia back in 2016. It was myself and Paul who founded it. We basically just wanted to get out and do some activism that was going to be effective, because at that time we felt like there was nothing happening that was truly effective for the animals, and we were really frustrated. So we got inspired by another group, and we got out there and we got the masks, and we just started doing the cube, which wasn't a cube at the start. We did a line and it was all messy, and then we did a circle, and we tried different things, but then I think it was the third or the fourth event that we decided to go with the square shape. So then it became the cube, and from then we've been really committed to improving not just the aesthetics but the protocols to make it even more effective. And our whole idea has always been to be a very professional group, so that the bystanders, the non-vegans, will take us seriously by looking at us, and therefore they would take the message seriously, which is veganism. So at the moment we have about 400 chapters around the world, which means 400 groups, 400 different cities do the cubes either weekly or monthly. And how many chapters do we have here in France at the moment?
Around 22, I think.
22, yes. So we're always growing, and what is really important to us is that we stay uniform. So we ask that everyone attends the cube, following the protocol, so that if you're traveling and you go to Australia and do a cube there, then you get the same exact experience that you get here in France or Italy or anywhere else. I also wanted to say that we do have some merch. We have some t-shirts and caps if anyone wants to buy. We have 3 styles of the t-shirt and we have 2 styles of the caps, and everything is 30 euros. Obviously, if you buy, that will support AV so that we can continue doing the work that we're doing. You can also go on our website and you can support us, by buying merchandise or making a donation on there as well. All right, so with the workshop, I've got some slides. I'm going to take you through this, which is basically the holding non-vegans accountable protocol that we have, which is the method that we use when we talk to the non-vegans on the street. And then I will share the flowchart, like Mathilde said, which is the most updated. This is the first official AV workshop that we're going to basically show this flowchart at. And then I think we'll see how we go with time. I don't think we're restricted with time, but we might do some role play if everyone's down to do that as well, so that we can put everything that we learn into practice and then get ready for tomorrow's action. So the first thing I want to talk about is the definition of veganism, because at the moment I think a lot of people are confused about what veganism means, especially when you're dealing with non-vegans. If you ask people on the street what veganism means, you're most likely going to get the answer, which is, oh, it's a diet that doesn't eat animals, or it's basically vegetarianism, right? So people are confused about what it is, and even if they know what it is, they only know it from a diet point of view, so they just know that you don't eat animals, and they leave it at that. We have gone back to the original definition, which was coined by Leslie Cross, and we have sort of updated this definition. So the original definition is the doctrine that man should live without exploiting animals. Because the wording is a little bit old school, it might be hard for people to understand that, but it's very simple, and if we just stick to that definition, then it makes sense that we speak up for the animals the way that we do within AV, and that we stay focused on the exploitation. So veganism has nothing to do with human health or the environment or human rights. And it also doesn't have anything to do with our relationship with the animals, like whether we like them or love them or how affectionate we are with them. And also it's not related to the reduction of suffering. So reduction of suffering is something that you might need to then measure, and it's hard to be consistent with that. So veganism is not about you reducing the suffering, because then it will become really hard to try and justify not doing certain things or doing certain things. So veganism is just about animal exploitation and putting an end to it. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah. So when we talk about exploitation, we're talking about animal exploitation for towards the animals that are oppressed at the hands of humans. Because sometimes you hear people say, oh, but what about the lion who's killing, this animal and that animal in the wild? But those animals are not being exploited by humans. We're only talking about animals who are exploited by humans. And we're wanting to put an end to human supremacy. The idea that humans are superior to other animals and that they have the right to exploit them, use them, and abuse them. So being vegan is basically humans who are for animal rights. That's what it means. Now, vegan outreach is just speaking up for the victims in the same way that you would want someone else to speak up for you if you were one of those animals. So every time you're doing outreach, put yourself in the animal's position and think, how would you want someone else as an animal rights activist to speak up for you, to try to liberate you? And that's the energy you need to have when you're basically speaking up for the animals. Being a medium of truth and enacting change by prioritizing the victim and not the oppressor. So a lot of these non-vegans that you talk to are going to bring up excuses that you are familiar with. And it's important to put the priority on the animal, not the oppressor. So it's not about the non-vegan's health or how inconvenient it is for them to go and buy new products or find recipes, how difficult it is for them to make this change, because they are not the victim. The non-human animal is the victim. So the focus should always be on the victim. And when I'm doing outreach, I always keep this in mind. So I always, whatever excuse they have or whatever argument they bring up in order to not go vegan, I always remind them, you're not the victim. So what? If you have to get used to a new lifestyle, or if you have to give up cheese that you really like, who cares? For you, it's just a change in your lifestyle, in your diet, in your habits. For them, it's their entire life. It's ridiculous. What if you were in their position? Would that be good enough for you if you were one of those animals and I said, I like the taste of your cheese? So it's important to make it clear that they are not the victim, they are the victimizer. If you are not speaking up for the animals in the same way that you would want to be spoken for, are you doing justice for the victims? Because if we're just being animal rights activists for the sake of it, and we are not actually creating any change for them, then what are we doing? There are plenty of groups out there that are doing work for the animals by leafleting and protesting and marching, but they are not holding individuals accountable, and that's what's missing in the movement. What we do is we go straight to the non-vegan and we hold them accountable. Now, it comes down to them being ready to receive the message. There's nothing we can do about that. If they're ready, they will listen, they will make the change. If they're not, no matter how you try to tell them, they won't change. The core of a successful outreach interaction is centered around holding individuals accountable for what they are personally responsible for. Everything else is details. And that's why we only focus on that same person. So they might say, oh, I think we should go to the government and do it from the base, No, we actually don't create change like that. We come to the consumer, and we talk to them because they are the ones who are responsible for this. And this is something that is really important to make it clear to the non-vegan that you're talking to, that they are responsible for it. It's not like they are, supporting it. They're actually responsible for it. They're the reason why these animals are going through hell. So this is the most important thing. We are holding people accountable. We're not just giving them information. Now, remember that you won't have a 100% success rate with your outreach. This is the bitter truth. So you won't be able to get everyone to go vegan on the street. Like I said just before, it comes down to that person, whether they're ready or not. What you can do is you can stick to the protocol and be honest and hold them accountable. The rest is up to them. There is no magic set of words to use during outreach that will make someone go vegan. If they're ready, they will listen and change. If they're not, they won't. So it doesn't matter. You can say it calmly, you can say it aggressively. It doesn't change their mind if they're not ready yet. And sometimes people are so ready that all they need to do is talk to one person or see one footage, and that's it for them. Other people might need more time, right? So they might come to the cube. When they leave, they're not yet convinced, but then next week they'll go and talk to somebody else or see something else, and that will be, the reason why they decide to go vegan. But the most important thing is that us as animal rights activists, we shouldn't make it sound like this is a process. We should make it very clear that this is urgent and they need to act on it now. Because if that person is going to take their sweet time with it, it's their responsibility. It should never be because an animal rights activist told them that it's okay to be on a journey and take their time with it. Does that make sense? Because if it came to another injustice, we would never promote that. So with animals, it's the same. It's an urgent matter and they need to act on it quickly if they agree with us. And if they decide to take a year or 6 months, or they decided to go vegetarian first and do it step by step, then it should be on them. And we should never celebrate that, we should never encourage them, and we should never be okay with that. Your function as an activist is to hold the individual you're speaking with accountable for the animal exploitation they are responsible for. So as an animal rights activist at the Cube, that's our functionality when we're talking to people. Our job is to hold them accountable and put them in the victim's position. And that's all we need to focus on while we follow the protocol. Most people think that seed planting is verbally leafleting with points and questions that lack individual accountability. So you hear this phrase a lot in the animal rights movement, we're planting seeds. But what usually people say, or what they think this means, is that we just give them information, right? And that's already happening. But that's not what we're doing at the Cube. Because that's already happening, because everyone has access to the internet, they have a phone, they can Google everything, they can use ChatGPT now. Like Mathilde was saying, it's so easy to find information on there. You can even ask for a meal plan. So if people want to research it, they will go and research it. And the information is already there. We don't want to be doing that. That's not what we mean by seed planting. What we mean by seed planting within AV is that the bystander leaves the Cube knowing that they are personally responsible for what we're showing on the screen. So if they have a problem with that, then they need to go vegan on that same day. That's what we mean by seed planting. So we need to make it clear to people that if they say that they are against animal exploitation, nothing less than being vegan is justified. Does everyone know what pandering means? Is there a word for it?
Complaisance.
Complaisance.
Vouloir faire plaisir et se faire aimer, se faire apprécier.
Right. So when you pander is when you are trying to be over agreeable because you want people to like you. You don't want to come across as someone who is disagreeing with everything. So on outreach, this happens quite a bit with activists because they are worried that the non-vegan is going to judge them harshly. Within AV, we ask you to not pander, meaning, you don't try to be overly agreeable. You don't try to be disingenuous, okay? Pandering will cause non-vegans to lose respect for you as an activist, and you will lose control of the conversation because humans are smart. The non-vegan is also smart. They're going to realize that you're pandering, and they're not going to respect you because of that. They're actually going to lose respect because they can see that you're going back on your own points or you're being too soft because you're worried about them not liking you. So on top of that, you will lose the control of the conversation because now the non-vegan is the one in charge of the conversation. Non-vegans will manipulate you into thinking they gained respect for you when you pander because they are glad that you are not holding them accountable for the obvious. So it's a win for them, and you lose the conversation basically because then you're not in charge and you're making them feel comfortable. So what you need to understand is that this is a very uncomfortable topic, obviously, and it's normal for people to become uncomfortable and to react or respond in a way that is very, very emotional. They might get angry, they might raise their voice a bit, they might turn red in the face. They may sound like they're trying to defend themselves because it's a very uncomfortable position to be in because you're holding them accountable, and they immediately go into feeling guilt and shame because they know that they are responsible. So once you start to pander, then they feel more comfortable and they stop feeling those emotions. So it becomes more of a shallow conversation, and they can just throw any argument at you because you're not going to actually emphatically respond to it. As I said earlier, veganism is about justice, and it has nothing to do with whether you like animals or not, because whether you like them or not, that doesn't give them or doesn't give you the right to use them, abuse them, exploit them, or murder them, or pay someone else to do those things to them. If you don't go around beating children, you aren't instantly a compassionate individual. Refraining from injustice does not make you compassionate by default. So imagine if someone was going around kicking, little kids in the face. Well, we don't do that. That doesn't make us compassionate. We're just normal humans. It's just the same thing to do. And it's the same thing for the animals. So, humans might like some animals more than the other ones, but that doesn't mean they wish harm on the other ones. And that's why we should never focus on our relationship with animals, whether we like them, love them, or not. It's not loving, it's the right thing to do. It's simply sane and just. Telling someone the truth and holding them accountable is the most loving and respectful thing you can do for them. So a lot of times people say our approach is aggressive and we're forceful. But, when you think about it, we're being honest with people. We're holding them accountable, which is, again, an uncomfortable position to be in, but we're doing it respectfully. And when you're being honest with someone, you're actually doing them a favor by telling them the truth because they have the right to know the truth. Now, maybe they choose to walk away from the truth or look away from the truth. but it's the most loving and respectful thing to do, what we're doing. And the non-vegan can choose what they do with that information. But the approach is definitely not aggressive, especially when you put yourself in the victim's position. And again, think about how you would want someone to represent you or speak up for you if you were one of those victims. When you are being disingenuous, non-vegans see that your desire to be validated by them is stronger than your desire to defend animals, thereby making a mockery of animal rights. It's important to be honest with yourself and decide, what kind of an animal rights activist I want to be. Because if your desire for being liked is bigger than sticking to the protocol and being truthful with the public, then AV may not be the right choice for you. Because our protocol is about holding the person accountable and seeing yourself as the medium of truth. You're just a vessel, you're just a tool, you're there to represent the animals. So it's not about you. If that person likes me, if that person disrespects me, if they try to mock me, that shouldn't bother me. On the inside, it shouldn't bother me because it's not about me. Because I can see that they're doing all of these things so that they don't have to deal with the guilt and the shame that they're feeling. So if you look at it that way, it becomes really easy to deal with some of those, nasty comments that people sometimes make. Whenever you are afraid to speak up for animals directly, or if bystanders call you too extreme, place yourself in the victim's position and analyze your approach from their perspective. Like I said, just always put yourself in the victim's position and see if our approach is too extreme. Would you consider a respectful yet direct conversation too extreme if you were locked in a slaughterhouse? Because I think everything that we do, us humans, like even some of the inconveniences that we face as animal rights activists as well, when you compare it to what the animals go through, it's nothing. So it's coming from a very privileged position that we're in. And if we just put ourselves in their position, which is really hard to do because it's impossible to feel what they're feeling, then it becomes really clear that this is the only approach to take. Speaking boldly is the most effective approach. When you don't speak boldly, it's implied that veganism doesn't need to be taken very seriously. You have to leave people feeling motivated. They need to feel like there is no other option for them other than going vegan. So again, when someone walks away from the cube, even if you don't think it was a successful outreach conversation, you want to make sure that they leave knowing that if at the start of the conversation they said they were against what we're showing, that nothing is possible other than for them to go vegan, to be aligned with that position. The animal rights violations are the only thing that is completely unjustifiable and should be the only thing to focus on during animal rights outreach. So we don't talk about anything other than the animals. We don't talk about health benefits of a plant-based diet. We don't talk about the environmental impact, positive or negative. And we don't talk about human rights or human-related issues. We only stay focused on the animals. Non-vegans may seem responsive to the health and environmental message, and that is likely because they're trying to deflect from the obvious and avoid being accountable for the murdered elephant in the room. So people are gonna bring up health and environmental argument, mostly health, because humans are selfish. And even when they bring up environmental arguments, again, it's for selfish reasons, because it's not like they need the environment for the animals to live in, for the non-human animals to live in. Humans want to continue living in a good environment, and they want for their children and their grandchildren to live in a good environment, and that's why they would, if they care, they would care about the environment. So that's why focusing on the environment or health is never going to achieve the same results in a conversation. Some activists think that, it's good, it's one way to get people to go vegan, but someone who decides to go vegan for their health, they're only staying focused on the diet aspect, because wearing animal skin doesn't really threaten or affect their health. It's only what they put in their body. So that's not even veganism, that's just a plant-based diet. And that's why we only focus on animals. We don't even know if environmental and health stats are correct, and there's no way for us to measure them accurately. So, and the other thing is, when people bring up these concerns or these questions, if you get into an argument with them, first of all, it's hard for us to know about the most updated, studies about every topic in nutrition or environment. That's not our job. And also, there's always another one to debunk the previous one. So it can just become a back and forth forever, and you could easily lose that argument. And you could spend half an hour just to talk about one topic. That's not what we do. That's not why we're on the street. We have a very limited amount of time with people. We usually have a 3-hour cube, 3 or 4 hours. And within that time, how many people are going to talk to? You're probably going to talk to 10 people, depending on how busy it is, maybe 20 people. So if you want to stay within that one conversation that is more like a debate for half an hour, then you're going to be missing lots of opportunities with other people that could be more open, and you could get them to go vegan within 5 minutes. And, most people don't actually give a shit about the environment or their own health. This is really funny. Like recently when we were touring within Europe, this happened so many times, and we all kept paying attention to it. And then when we were debriefing, we all had stories to share. We would be talking to people that were extremely obese, and they looked very unhealthy, and then they would bring up health arguments, and they'll be like, oh, but what about protein? But I won't be getting enough this and that. And in my head, I'm thinking, like, are you serious? You don't look like someone who cares about their health. And of course they don't, but they think they can get away from this by bringing up those arguments. So if they don't care about their own health, and they don't care about the environment really, because the lifestyles that they live shows that they don't care about the environment, then why do you even take them seriously when they bring it up during an outreach conversation? Even if you happen to speak with an environmentalist, they will likely feel that they are already doing enough. So that's the other thing. Those true environmentalists are self-entitled. They think they're already doing enough because they only eat sustainable fish or whatever, and they don't need to be doing more. It's kind of like talking to vegetarians or Muslims, I would say, or any religious person, because they already think they're doing more than the other people. I'm a vegetarian, you don't need to talk to me. Or when you speak to Muslims, they're like, oh, we don't do it like this. We only do halal. So they're some of the hardest to talk to. If you ever feel compelled to focus on environment or health when speaking up for the animals, think about why oppression should end from the victim's perspective. Only entertain these arguments when the bystanders bring them up and when you can sense that they are being genuine in their concern. So we're not saying to ignore every question or concern that they bring up, but we're saying to respond only to the ones that sound genuine. So usually people, you can tell if someone's being genuine. They listen to you, they watch the footage, they express themselves, and then they say, but I have really low iron and I'm worried that I won't be able to get enough iron, for example. And you can sense that they're being honest. So then what I usually say is that I reassure them by saying, look, you can go and look it up, you can do your own research, but I can tell you that the science is on our side when it comes to plant-based nutrition being the healthiest diet on the planet, which is true. We know that. It's been proven. But at the same time, I don't want to stand there for 20 minutes and talk to them about it. So I like to tell people that they can Google it and they can find more information on our website, and then I can move on to the next point. But if you feel like these concerns are genuine, by all means, you can respond to it. And if you have a personal story that you can share with them, you can also do that. Sometimes I do this with people. They might bring up something and I actually have information about it, or I had a similar experience, or I know someone who had the same experience. Then I tell them a little bit more. But other than that, you just need to tell them, you know, the science is on our side, but you can go and Google it. And what I like to also tell people is that, you know, unless you do your own unbiased research, how can you trust what your doctor tells you? You know, because they all go to the same school, so they're told a certain thing. Don't you feel like you have the right to do your own independent research before you make a decision? But if you feel like the person is bringing one argument after the other and it's all health related, then at some point you need to stop that conversation, obviously. We have a 3 strikes rule. It's a rough guide. It's not something that you have to stick to. But basically we say 3 strikes, meaning the first argument they bring up, you respond to, move on. The second one, again, depending on how they say it or what it is, you respond to it. And the third one, you can decide at that point whether that conversation is worth it for you to continue or you should walk away from it. We need to be speaking up for animals correctly. Too many vegans are focusing on things like plant-based recipes and nutrition and weight loss and, you know, sharing recipes, bodybuilding and workouts and different things. So that's already happening and it's great. I think that's good that it's happening. But what we don't have enough of is groups that focus on the animals only and they hold people accountable. So we need to put all of our time and energy into doing that. Using phrases like friends not food or animal lovers don't eat animals further confuses non-vegans about what veganism is about. We'll talk a little bit about this later. This is not a conversation about sympathy. This is a conversation about accountability. So I know it sounds like we're repeating ourselves, but it's very simple. It sounds very simple. It's very, you know, reasonable what we're saying, but I still see sometimes activists not sticking to the protocol and then doing outreach, you know, like they used to do, or other groups do it. So within AV, that's all we focus on. It's very simple. We hold the person accountable. We don't worry about all the peace and love and friendship stuff, and that's all we do. And we put the person in the victim's position. Now, sometimes people like to compare this injustice to other injustices, which is fine. We can do that if it makes sense. But one thing is we don't use dog comparison, for example. Like if I'm talking to a bystander, I don't say, what if it was your own dog? What if it was your own daughter? We don't say that. We instead put that person in the victim's position. Okay, that's much more effective. The most effective comparison is to place the bystander in the victim's position. So like I said, we don't use the dog comparison. Sometimes people think that that's, you know, more relevant because, you know, the person loves their dog or their family member, but nothing compares to when you try to put yourself in the victim's position. And this will just, this goes back to not leading with compassion. Again, it's not about compassion, it's about being sensible, right? It's common sense not to harm someone who doesn't need to be harmed. It's not about the love people feel towards animals, it's about the hate they feel towards the injustice they are responsible for. It doesn't come down to whether you can imagine your dog in a slaughterhouse, it comes down to whether you can imagine yourself in a slaughterhouse. Like I said, we have very limited time with people on the street. On average, we have about 5 minutes with people. And it's important to manage our time really well so that we can go through the protocol, the steps that we have. And then obviously they might have some questions or they might want to bring up some concerns, so you want to respond to those. But it's important to keep it minimal so that you're not wasting your time with getting into stats and numbers and information again, especially about health and environment and things like that. So again, we're not trying to be leafleting people like verbally and just bombard them with information that's already available to them.
Just leafleting means on ne fait pas de tractage verbal. Voilà.
Leaflet.
Yes, thank you. Can we open that a little bit? It's really hot. Yeah, thank you. You're there to have a concise conversation that holds people accountable for their oppression of the animals. Again, we're not there to educate them. Okay, that's not what we're doing. This is not an educational event, even though sometimes we have to say that to the police or something. But we're not really holding an educational event. We're holding people accountable. That's what we're doing. A conversation will go on for longer than necessary if it turns into an argument over stats. Because they're like, oh, but I heard the number was 1,000. Oh, no, but I heard it was 2,000. Oh, let me show you this study. We don't have time for that, and we're not interested to do that. This is another reason why you shouldn't bring up health and environmental points. So again, the health and environmental points that they bring up, we can respond to very minimally, but it should never come up by us. Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is really important. Again, limited time, limited number of people that we get to talk to every time. Not everybody on the street is worth our time. They're not worth talking to. Part of your role is to assess who is reachable and who is not. Many people are not reachable, unfortunately. So we are actually in charge of this. We can choose who we talk to and how long we spend with them. If they want to have a short conversation with you, keep it short with them. Don't entertain bystanders who want to engage in a long argumentative debate. So some people, they're not interested. You can tell by their body language, they keep doing this, they keep looking at the time. They're not really engaged. Let them go. Don't feel like just because they're giving you a half-assed presence, then you should spend more time with them. Let them go, move on to the next person. And on the other hand, sometimes people just love to talk. They don't care who they talk to. They don't care what the topic is. They will stand there for an hour and they will argue with you. It's your job to recognize that early on, cut it short, and move on. Do not underestimate the cunningness of non-vegans, which is fueled by their guilt and the ability that many non-vegans will have to waste your vital time at work for the animals. So again, they feel the guilt, they feel the shame. Yes? Do you want to?
Cunningness. La sournoiserie.
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 How do you say it?
Sournoiserie.
That's very difficult. Sournoiserie. That's what it sounded like.
That sounds good.
Yeah, basically that it's, being sort of smart. That's what it means. They're trying to be smart. So because they are going to feel guilty, and they feel shame because of what they're responsible for. So instead, they will try and distract you by bringing up all these other arguments and entertain you, and they want to control the conversation, and the result will be your time that is wasted and your energy that is drained. Does everyone know what the Socratic method is?
Yes.
If you don't know, put your hand up. The Socratic method is basically asking questions, and by asking questions, you lead the person to the answer. So instead of giving them the answer, you let them get to the answer by asking those questions, and they think about it, and that's how they get to the place they're supposed to get to. Socratic questioning is not a method, it's not like an approach. You can't say that's my outreach approach, because just doing that is not gonna get someone to go vegan. You'll be standing there all day asking questions and hoping. But it's a good communication tool that we can use, and we do use in our protocol. So it's something you can use within the approach that we have, which is asking questions to lead the bystander to their own conclusion, which is veganism. Why versus how? People already know how to go vegan because there are all these people on Instagram and Facebook and other social media platforms, and people can Google it. So knowing how to go vegan has become easier than ever before. Figuring out the nutrition, finding recipes, buying products, all of that. In order for people to feel the need to become vegan, they need to be held accountable for why they should do it. That's why we say why versus how. So why is more important, why someone should do something, because how they're going to do it, they're going to figure it out after. I myself decided to go vegan on the spot after watching footage from a fur farm. And at that time I didn't know. I researched, veganism, yeah, I know what that means. Okay, that's it, I'm going vegan. I didn't know nothing about it. I just knew I was going vegan. And then I figured it out, right? Then you learn, I need to read labels. Then I need to look up this and that. I didn't need anybody to hold my hand. So why do we feel like we need to do that to people? And back then when I went vegan, we didn't have as many products in supermarkets. We didn't have ChatGPT. We didn't have a lot of these tools. And many people have gone vegan 50 years ago that none of that existed. So that's proof that we don't need to be holding people's hands like babies. And we don't need to tell them how to go vegan. We just need to show them why, and they will figure it out. Focusing on the how is an insult to the victims and marginalizes the severity of their oppression. So again, putting yourself in the victim's position, how would you feel if someone was like, I need to first figure out how much protein I need to take and then I'll go vegan? So sometimes when people bring up these concerns or arguments, we actually need to make it very clear to them that it's absurd and it's ridiculous that they're making it such an inconvenience. Vegetarians are non-vegans and should be outreached like any other non-vegan. In most cases with even more vigor because they think they're already doing enough. So vegetarians are no different to people on a paleo diet or any other diet. It's just a diet that excludes animal flesh. That's it. It's not like they're doing anything for the animals. And in fact, a lot of vegetarians eat way more dairy products than the other non-vegans to make up for it. So if you're talking to someone and they say, don't worry about me, I'm vegetarian. No, actually you're my target, hold on. I need to talk to you. And outreach them exactly like you outreach anyone else. So don't ever celebrate the fact that, that's great, you've been a vegetarian for how long? They're not doing anything for the animals. Vegetarians are our target market. They're no different to people who eat the paleo diet. Most vegetarians are responsible for just as much animal abuse. Why should we outreach them any differently? Everyone here knows about the dairy industry and the egg industry and all the other industries that exploit animals. Again, vegetarians just don't eat animal flesh. They use every other animal product. So they are just as responsible for it. They are not our allies. Sometimes people think, oh, vegetarians are just vegan allies. No, they're not, because they would be vegan if they were. Don't let other vegans or non-vegans manipulate you into thinking that they are. Usually vegetarians themselves, they try to do that. And again, from my experience, they're some of the hardest people to outreach, because they think that they're already doing enough and they don't need to change. And most of them, when you tell them, do you know about the dairy? Yeah, I know. But they're not willing to change. This is a new slide that we've added the last few workshops. These are some of the unacceptable terms that we have come up with. Not that we came up with the terms, but these are the things that we could think of. And if you can think of other things, please tell me so we can update it and we can add it to the list. So these are the terms that, in our opinion, are unacceptable to use. Okay, whether on outreach or in general. Do you want to come in?
No, thank you.
Meat eater. Because saying someone is a meat eater validates the fact that they have a different body and they're supposed to be eating meat. It's validating it. That's why we should never call them meat eaters. Or carnist is the same thing. Oh, like sometimes people say, oh, my husband is a carnist. What? You're validating it. You're saying like he's different to you. You decided to go vegan, but he's some kind of special human that is designed to eat animals. Omnivore, same. Carnivore, same. Does this make sense to everybody?
No.
No?
I think we're not used to this.
Okay.
It's the first time to hear it, so if you could just maybe add one or two more explanations to it.
So basically, these are the terms that vegans use or animal rights activists use in their language, whether outreach or otherwise, online and offline. Like I said, sometimes people say, oh, my family is, they're all carnivores. And the reason why we've put them in their list is that we should stop using these words, because if I say my family is carnivores, then I'm validating the fact that they are designed to eat a carnivorous diet. I decided to go vegan, but they are okay to be carnivores because that's their nature. Whereas I personally, my family is not vegan, and when I'm talking about it, I say they're not vegan or they're non-vegans. We are normal. We're vegans, okay? Vegans are normal. They are the non-vegans. Does that make sense?
Est-ce que tout le monde comprend ou est d'accord avec ça ou un argument contraire à apporter?
I think you still...
Yeah. She
Maybe
said
you
she
wanna-
disagrees, so...
She's saying carnist is more of an ideology, the way we use it here, not like a statement about your nature.
But when you call someone a carnist rather than a non-vegan, you're saying, you're validating the fact that they are a carnist or a carnivore. But when you refer to them as a non-vegan, you're stating the truth. That's where we're coming from.
I think like your aim is to avoid
To
make
avoid-
people being in a category. That's the point.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
if we are talking about them, we should only refer to them as non-vegans. Because if we say anything else like omnivores, carnists, carnivores, it sounds like we're validating them because we're separating them, like they have some kind of special body and they're different to us. Whereas we know that the normal way of living is to be vegan, so they're the abnormal ones and they're the non-vegans. It's not like, oh, some people, because this is what non-vegans give us on outreach. They say, oh, no, you need to respect everyone's body is different. Some people need, then it makes sense for them to be omnivores.
She changed her mind.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, just some context. I've noticed during a lot of cubes that some of our activists, they have a tendency to focus on the meat eating.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like it's also a strategic mistake when you're doing an outreach conversation. And I think using these terms like augment like the risk that people will end up doing that. So only for that we should never ever use some of these.
Never use?
some of these terms.
Yeah,
like
that's
meat
why
eater
we're
carnivore.
saying these are unacceptable. Like you said, I've heard this on outreach as well. Meat eater, or like they focus on the meat. When they're doing their outreach, they only focus on the meat. But again, we also have a problem with vegetarians. So saying meat, you know, you eat meat or eating meat causes blah, blah, blah. Then we're excluding all the other areas that the animals are exploited in. But the first four are sort of in the same category, but then the other ones are different. So like vegan journey, for example, like I said earlier, we don't promote it like it's a complicated thing and it requires time. You know, for some people it might be, they need to be exposed to it more and more before they make that change. But we don't need to say it like it's a complicated thing. It's definitely not a journey. You can decide to go vegan and go vegan now. Doctors might say, oh no, you need to transition. But we are animal rights activists. We are speaking up for the animals. We're representing them. So it shouldn't come from us. So these are the terms that we should never use. Vegan journeys or baby steps. This is also a big one you hear, baby steps. For me, it's going to be baby steps. Well, there's nothing we can do about that, but we shouldn't say it. Or when they say it, we shouldn't say, okay, great, that's a good start. No, it's not. Because if someone on outreach tells you that they're going to be eating less meat or they're going to take baby steps and you make it comfortable, they will do even less than that. So let's say you make it super clear to them that there's nothing other than veganism they should be doing after today. If they decide to go vegan, you know, maybe it will take them another 1 or 2 cubes or other things to come across, and then they'll make the change, right? And you have done your part. You have made it super clear. You have held them accountable. But if they say, I'll do less, I'll eat less meat, maybe just once or twice a week, or I'll cut out meat, and you say, okay, that's a good start, and you make them feel comfortable, it will take them 6 months or a year or maybe more years. Do you know what I mean? Because whatever you say, they will do less than that. So it should never come from us. And plant-based. Plant-based is the diet, right? So we don't need to talk about the diet. And even the diet you can refer to as vegan, but what we need to do is we need to make it clear to people what the difference is, because a lot of times people, even on products, it says plant-based, and it's confusing for people. It's our job to clarify that for them. Okay? So we need to make it clear to them that veganism is not the diet. Veganism goes above. So what I normally do, when I ask people, do you know what veganism means? And they tell me what they think, I explain to them what it means and I go into the details. Okay, so veganism is not just the diet, it's way more than that. We'll get into that in a minute. But the plant-based, which is the diet, has nothing to do with our work. Does that make sense? If you continue to think of terms like this, and you think that we should also include them in the list, even tomorrow you can come and see me, or later today, just come and tell me and I'll put them in a note and we'll discuss it. Okay, so...
Il va bien, rassurez-vous, ça va.
It's good? Okay, that's good. Yeah, it is small, unfortunately. I don't know how to make it. Can I? Like this? Okay. No? Oh, yeah. Okay, is it good?
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. So this is our new flowchart. This is the most updated. I'm still not used to it, so we're gonna learn it together. Is there anyone who hasn't done a cube? Everyone's done a cube? Oh, it's gonna be your first cube tomorrow? Amazing, welcome. So Obviously tomorrow before the cube we'll do a briefing and we'll go through everything that involves, you know, the outreach and the cube. Is he okay?
Yeah, he's better. He's emotional.
Okay. Yeah, I could see him crying.
That's why. Okay.
I made someone cry. When you outreach someone at the cube, these are the steps that you will be taking. And for all of us, because we have updated it, it's going to be our first time using it. So I can share it with you, or you have it already. So what we can do is you can maybe share it in a group if you haven't already, so everyone can have it on their phone if they want to look at it before.
This part is not in French yet. What I translated so far is the shorter version,
Okay.
like the memo card. This one is being translated.
But I think even in English it might be good.
I'll share it in English right now.
Yeah, it would be good to have a look at it. And even when you have one outreach conversation, before you go on to the next one, quickly you can have another look, just until we memorize it. So this is the AV accountability flowchart. This is the official outreach approach that we have. The core principles are holding non-vegans accountable, no leafletting, which is what Mathilde explained, putting non-vegans into the victim's position, and also this is a call to action. It's not raising awareness. So you remember these 4 principles, okay? These are the 4 principles that we have within this flowchart. If you just remember that, then you remember the points, and even if you forgot in the conversation, you can navigate, through the conversation, as long as you remember these 4 principles. The first question is, hello, how do you feel about humans exploiting other animals? When you approach someone, they're already watching the footage, you go up to them and you ask them this question. How do you feel about humans exploiting animals? This is an update, okay? We used to say, and you can still say, so again, this is the guideline. It's okay to change it a little bit. You can be creative with it as long as you don't change the core principles. Does that make sense? So the first question is this. Okay for you to also say, how does this footage make you feel? You can still use that. That's my personal favorite, okay? Because I like to get into people's hearts and see how they feel. But this is also good because you're asking them how they feel about humans exploiting animals. So from the beginning, 1, you're asking them about how they feel, and 2, you're bringing up the word exploitation, which is really important in our work because we don't focus on abuse, we don't focus on cruelty, and we don't focus on the killing. We focus on exploitation. That person might give you an answer, and they might say, actually, I don't know what exploitation is. Or, actually, I don't know what you mean. Then you can interact with them. Because it's always about whether they engage with you or they don't. If they're going to give you something to work with, then you go to the next step and the next step. If not, then you disengage and you walk away, right? Now, if they ask you what we're showing, this is the response. We are showing the most common forms of exploitation. Animals being exploited for their flesh, breast milk, eggs, skin, etc. This is like a thorough explanation of what we're showing. Again, I'm happy for you to say it in your own words as long as you stick to the principles. But if someone comes up to us, sometimes even you don't need to start the conversation because you're doing something, someone comes up and says, hey, what's this? Oh, you want to know what this is? And you tell them. But mostly we approach them. So once you explain that to them and they understand it, then you go into asking them, would you agree that we should respect other animals? Because we are also animals. The other animals, the non-human animals, should we respect them? This is also an update, using respect in there. Because like I said, it's not about liking them or loving them. It is about respecting them. Because if you respect someone, you don't take something away from them. You don't exploit them. So if we do respect them, if that person believes that they should respect them, then they shouldn't be exploiting them. And we put the question there early in the conversation. So would you agree that we should respect animals? Most people are going to say yes. But some people might say no. Then you can decide, which way to navigate. But when they say yes, then you can ask them, can you truly respect animals if you still consume their flesh, milk, and eggs? So you're catching them in the hypocrisy, because they're going to be someone who eats animals. They're going to be a non-vegan. And then they can give you an answer. A lot of times here people say, I think there's the right way to do it. And then you can respond to that argument. And if they say, sometimes people say no, then you can continue. So do you know the definition of veganism? This is also an update. So we're asking people if they know what veganism means, because what we recognized during the month in Amsterdam was that a lot of people don't know what veganism is. They still say, oh, you just don't eat animals. So you give them an opportunity to give you the definition of veganism that they know, and then you correct them, because 99% of the time you will need to correct them. And the definition that we have, it's the ethical principle that humans should live without exploiting other animals. It addresses the supremacist mindset that other animals exist for us to use. Also, it is not a diet, lifestyle, or identity. Now, you may not remember the whole thing, but the first line is the most important one. And it might sound a little bit different if you say it in French, but this is the first line is the most important part, and you need to sort of memorize that so that we have the same definition at the cue. So people are not getting different definitions. And we're not focusing on anything other than the animals. Then you have laid the foundation here. They know what veganism means. They know it's about respect. They know about exploitation. And then you ask them, do you feel there is anything preventing you from going vegan? Now, up until this point, they might have already brought up all their arguments and excuses. So then you would have responded to those. Remember the 3-strike rule. So maybe it doesn't get to this point. Maybe you have already walked away from them. But if it did get to this point, they will definitely have some arguments at this point, because you're literally asking them what is stopping you from going vegan, and they will tell you what's stopping them. You respond. It might be more than one thing. Then when you respond to that argument, you say, do you know what the number one benefit of veganism is? This is an old one. We've always had that, so it's not new. And then usually people say, I don't know, or sometimes they say, oh, it's healthy. Then you have to again correct them. So this is what you say. For them, you'll no longer be the reason they're exploited. For you, when you say you're against animal exploitation, you'll no longer be a hypocrite. So you point out the hypocrisy. And then you say, if you were in their position, how fast would you want this injustice to end? So you put them in the victim's position, which is one of our principles. Remember, we have 4 principles, the core principles that we have, and this is the second one. Putting the bystander in the victim's position. And if the person's being honest, they will say urgently. Of course, I would want it to end now. So then you say, from now on, should the number of animals exploited for you be 0 or more? This is a very direct way of asking them if they're going vegan or not. Yeah, so number 8, from now on, should the number of animals exploited for you be 0 or more? So then the person can decide if they're going vegan or not. Because if they say anything more than 0, then they're not vegan. And then you confirm. So vegan from now, and they can tell you if they're going vegan or not. So the last step, number 9, is the call to action. Like I said, that's one of the principles. We're not just giving them information and then letting them go. We're getting them to sign up for a call to action or not by going vegan. So they have to declare to be vegan. And this is what we say at the end to make it clear about how urgent this is. This is not food for thought. It is a call to action, and there is no acceptable reason for you not to be vegan as of right now. For as long as you are not vegan, this will continue to happen because of you. Again, you can rephrase it, you can use your own words, you can be creative, but this should be the last thing you say before they walk away. So it should be the last thing they remember from that conversation. That regardless of how many arguments they threw at you, you made it clear that if they're not going vegan right now, then they're going against everything they said. The next step is to speak out. Use your voice to defend animals against human supremacism, just as you would want to be defended if you were in their position. So we also want to get people to become active. So this is for both people to declare to go vegan and people that don't. So even someone who says, okay, that's it, you've convinced me, I'm going vegan today. Then you say, remember, you need to also speak up for the animals. And this is why we have this box at the end, because we need more people to speak up for them. And even the person who you don't think is going to go vegan, you can still tell them, you know, by going vegan, you're not actually doing anything. You're just leaving the animals alone. So you actually need to become active and speak up for them. So this is basically the protocol that we have. Just so we're on the same page, exploitation means using someone for any purpose that goes against their interests rather than respecting them. So this is for us. This is not something we tell people. This is for us to remember that exploitation, this is what it means. Sometimes when you use the word exploitation, people don't know the meaning, especially if there is a language barrier. So you may need to explain it to them. Throughout this whole protocol, people will bring up different things and they will have different arguments. Again, you can respond to them, remembering the 3-strike rule. But this is just some useful reminders for you. Confronting blockers. If you are in this position, would you accept this excuse? For example, I am talking to someone and they say, oh, you know, where I live, we don't have a lot of vegan options, and you know, the vegan food is more expensive. I can explain whatever response I have, then I can say this. If you were in the animal's position, would you accept this as an excuse? Again, putting the person in the victim's position. Testing open-mindedness. If this issue was resolved, would you go vegan today? I tested this multiple times during my outreach conversations when I was traveling. Like I remember I was talking to a couple and they were telling me that they lived in Nepal in like a very remote area, and they were telling me about all of this. And I forget, they bring up something that was really ridiculous. They said, oh, we thought rice wasn't vegan, or some idiot had given them the wrong information. They were saying all these things. Corn wasn't vegan, I don't remember. And then they also had some health concerns, but they seemed really genuine. And so I remember at some point I used this and I said, I promise you that once you look into it, you'll be convinced about what I'm telling you, because I was giving them information about that specific concern. But I said, let's say this is resolved and this is not a problem anymore. Would you go vegan then? And they were like, yes, of course. So this is a really good one. And it works. Identify all potential obstacles before moving forward. Is there anything else preventing you? So before you move on to the next step, you want to make sure that you've responded to all of their concerns, given they're genuine, and then you can move forward. Now, some more reminders. Allow watching footage to garner interest. So it's important not to approach people too early but also throughout the conversation, you want to invite them to keep watching the footage. Sometimes people turn away from the footage. Sometimes I allow it because otherwise they would walk away. And if I feel like they're interested, I would rather keep them there, even if they're not watching. So sometimes people say, oh, I can't even watch this, and they turn around. And I'll still talk to them. And then if I say, look, this is the dairy industry, and they're like, I really cannot, but I'm happy to talk to you, then I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll make an exception. But otherwise, this is how I do it. I keep saying, see, this is the egg industry. See, this is what's happening. I explain it to them, and I encourage them to go and have a look. Also, if you're explaining the dairy industry to them, but the footage is not showing the dairy industry, you can maybe walk around the cube and find a screen that is showing that specific thing that you're explaining, because that always helps. Don't interrupt conversations. So this is something that we will cover during the briefing, but be respectful to other activists. So if someone's already doing outreach, don't interrupt. Also, we don't need 2 or 3 outreachers talking to one person. One person can outreach a group of people, that's fine. But you don't need more than one person to outreach the bystander. And the other thing is, if you're talking to more than one person, so if 2, 3 or more people, make sure you engage all of them. So you're not just focusing on one. Usually there is one that is more talkative, they're the main person. But try to engage the other ones by saying, hey, what do you think? How do you feel? And bring them into the conversation unless they're not interested and they show you. Otherwise, don't just, because that's also a lost opportunity if we ignore the rest of them. Not a social event. I think that this won't be a problem because I know the mindset here in France. Obviously, you know, we do the cube for 3 hours tomorrow, right? And we're just there for the animals, so 3 hours will go past very quickly. Then we'll have plenty of time to socialize and hang out. But at the event, we're just eyes for bystanders and waiting for an opportunity to talk. Do not validate non-vegans with handshake, fist bumps, or hugs. This is an update. I don't know if you've communicated this.
Yes.
You have? This is an update, and some people might disagree. But we have a reason for implementing this again, because, you know, when you do an event for so long, like we did in Amsterdam for a whole month every day, you notice a lot and you make a lot of changes and updates. And so we were observing things, we were getting feedback, giving feedback, and then we decided that this was a good update to make, because sometimes at the end of the conversation, even though the person's not going vegan, they go like this, and if we shake their hands, we're validating them. Like I was saying earlier, we don't want to be pandering because we don't care about being liked. So by shaking the hands of a non-vegan who is responsible for the worst form of exploitation, we're validating. So once we started implementing this, it was really cool, because when we're looking around, if we saw a handshake or a fist bump, then we knew that that person declared to go vegan, otherwise it wouldn't have happened. And in fact, in Prague, there was one activist who was outreaching this guy, and this guy didn't go vegan, but he went, hey man, but you're doing really good work, I respect you, and went like this, and the activist went like this and said, I'm not going to shake your hand because, you know, you're responsible for animal exploitation. In a second, this guy changed and he started yelling and screaming. He kept walking like he was 50 meters away from us, and he was like, fuck you, you're a piece of shit. Like, he was getting really angry. What does that tell you?
So finally it was just hypocrite.
Yeah, they don't actually respect our work, because if they did, they would be standing with us, right? And what I did, I actually walked up to the activist and I shook his hand. And that pissed him off even more, so he started swearing at me as well. That was fun. But that was proof that we did the right thing by implementing this, because, again, we're not there to gain respect from the public or be liked. So why do we care? And with the protocol that we have, like I said, we don't want you to be disrespectful to people. We don't want you to be aggressive. But just be firm, be confident, and speak up for the animals how they deserve. And don't pander. So if the person is not going vegan, you have no reason to be like, hey, good job. What are they doing to deserve that? Or to give them a hug. If someone's going vegan and they're emotional, I always offer to give them a hug. But otherwise, I have no reason. And so if someone is trying to shake your hand, you can literally tell them, I'm not going to shake your hand. You're an animal abuser. You exploit animals. Whatever you want to say. But remember, you also don't need to explain yourself to people. You can literally walk away. And the last thing is focus on why, not how. Again, the how they will figure out, we need to tell them. We need to keep emphasizing on the fact that these animals are exploited at the hands of humans, that person is responsible for it, and that's why they should go vegan. And this is the most updated flowchart that we have. Now, we're going into the last portion of the workshop. How's everyone feeling? Tired? Is it getting too hot over there with the sun, or is it good? All right, this section is going to be much shorter, so we're going to move through it quick, and then we can do some role play as planned. And also we'll do a Q&A, of course. So everything that I explained up until now is a part of our Holding Non-Vegans Accountable protocol and is expected of you at the Cube. So just like we ask that you wear black at the Cube and we all use the same mask, we ask that everyone follows the same outreach protocol if they're talking to a non-vegan. Everything I'm going to discuss from now is an add-on. So it's not expected, but it will help your outreach become better and more effective. Does that make sense? So the first thing is our interaction with the public, which should happen like a normal human being. We don't need to be sounding like a special person. We don't need to be sounding like robots. Just interact with the public how you normally do. We wait for them to engage with the footage. We approach them. We say hello. Also, don't be sneaky. Like, don't go from behind. Hi. Like, I have done that, and sometimes people are like, whoa, you scared me. Don't do that. And also don't be like timid, you know. Just be confident. Hi, you know. Yeah, just be normal. Just say hello. Let them engage with the footage. Say hello and then go into the conversation using the flowchart that we have. Yeah, tailor means customize. So customize your language and tone to suit the individual you're talking to.
C'est adapter son langage à la personne.
Adapter, yes. So it depends on who you're talking to, their age, you know, if they are from a different background, maybe there is a language barrier. All of this you need to take into account, and also their personality. So there's a little bit of psychology in what I'm about to share with you here, but it can help you. It's very easy to understand and it can help. So, for example, in terms of personality, some people are shy, some people are more, you know, outgoing. If someone is shy and they're uncomfortable to be in the public, or they're not generally very talkative, they're not going to give you a lot in the conversation. Even though they're interested and they're listening and they're absorbing the information, they won't be saying much or asking many questions. That doesn't mean they're not interested. So if you can understand that, then it will help you decide whether you're continuing with the conversation or not. And on the other hand, like I said earlier, some people love to talk. They don't care that it's about veganism and they're deciding that they will never go vegan. They will still be there to talk to you because that's how they recharge their batteries. They love to socialize, and that's how they see it, like a socializing opportunity. So they will stand there and talk with you, and even though they'll bring up arguments and they listen to you, they're not absorbing anything. So if you notice that, then you may decide to cut that conversation short. That's what I mean by personality. Also, if there is a language barrier, you may decide to walk away from the conversation, because if you don't understand the language, they don't understand what you're saying, and there is no way for you to interact with them, there's no point. Now, in Amsterdam, we started using Google Translate, and it was very good. It's pretty accurate. You can also download this, certain languages that you like when you're at home. So even if you don't have internet when you go out, you still have access to it. And it will just mean that it takes a little bit longer to get through the conversation, but it works. So if you're at a cube and you're talking to someone who doesn't speak your language, first option is always finding someone who does speak the language. But if no one is present, second option is Google Translate. And if Google Translate is not an option, then you may want to just not talk to them, because then you'll have to go into sign language, and we're not all trained. What I do in this case, I will give them a card. I will make an exception and give them a card, because they can go and translate the website, and maybe that will help them.
Or at least if your card has a QR code.
Yeah, the QR
That's
code.
what I use, yeah.
Exactly. So in this case, it's okay to give them that. But otherwise, you just walk away from them. The next thing is age. So depending on how old roughly the person is that you're talking to, you might need to change your tone in your language. For example, if I'm speaking to someone my own age, I'm going to be talking to them differently than someone much older. For example, if I'm talking to a very old lady, I'm not going to use certain words, like I'm not going to swear. But if it's someone my age, I will. That's what I mean, as an example. So it depends who you're talking to in terms of age, and background and things like that. And kids, should we talk to kids? Yes, because kids are the most receptive. They haven't gone through all the conditioning in our society through school and families and their peers. So it's easy to get through to them. I actually had one of the best conversations with this little girl in Prague, I think. She was so young. She was no more than 3.5 years old. She was so cute. I actually posted a photo and a video of her on my page. And I loved the fact that the parents were standing a few meters away from me being outreached, and they had no problem with the kid being here with me, and I was sitting on the floor, and we were just chatting and watching the footage. It was amazing. Although they don't know I brainwashed that girl. But yeah, it was pretty good. And she was so young that it was so hard to talk to her, because what are you going to say? But that's the thing. When I say adapt your language to suit that person, you can't be talking to the kid and be like, so do you understand that you're being a hypocrite because you said you're against animal exploitation?
Yeah.
So this little girl, she was watching the footage and she was getting really angry, like she was doing this. And I explained to her what we're showing. She was like, no, this is not good. When I see a dog, I like to help them. This is how she was talking. And then she did this cute thing that she was doing this like a rabbit jumping around. She was like, I like cute little animals. So then at one point, I made it clear to her that any animal that people eat, for their flesh or what comes out of their body, I was breaking it down in the most, basic sort of language for her to understand. So you use your best judgment, but I think we should definitely talk to kids if they're around, if they're open, and if the parents don't take them away from us. Yeah, we should definitely talk to them. Teenagers is a different story. They're much harder to talk to these days. But yeah, kids are so much easier. And
most of kids are not hypocrite yet.
yeah, not yet. Yeah, they're not programmed yet. So then body language is the next thing. So body language means everything that we do and the bystander does. And we need to be mindful of our body language, but also their body language, right? And I will get into that in the next slide. Now, with the flowchart that we looked at together, we want you to use your best judgment and common sense so that you can navigate through the conversation using the flowchart. So have the flowchart in the back of your mind, all the steps, but use your best judgment. Read the room and pay attention to the nuances, and do not sound like a robot. I sound like a robot, continuing to say, do not sound like a robot. But I say this because sometimes people think they need to be focused on step number 1 to 9, and they lose, what's happening in front of them. So if you're too focused on, what should I say next? What was the next step? Then you're not present in the conversation, okay? I would rather you be present and use whatever you can remember and just have a genuine conversation with the person in front of you who may have some, special questions, than to stick to the flowchart. If you forget, you forget. It's fine. You'll remember it next time. And you can take it out and look at it as soon as the conversation is over. There are different ways of saying the same points. For example, how does this footage make you feel, which used to be our number 1 question. You can say it differently, and these are some of the examples. So, for example, if someone is already showing some emotions, like they're crying, would they look shocked, or as soon as you go up to them, they say, "This is making me angry," then it's stupid to ask them, "How does this make you feel?" So this is what we mean by reading the room and, paying attention. So sometimes you need to change the sentences a little bit so that you don't sound like a robot. Body language, like I said, is our body language as well as the bystander. The best body language for us is to have our hands behind us because it shows openness. And if you're standing like this is like a closed off sort of gesture. So it doesn't show that you're open. This is a really good one. You can have your hands in your pocket as well, but as long as it's not like too chill and it doesn't look too casual. But I prefer to be like this. Okay? And also with your posture, try to have a nice strong posture. We say this for when you're standing in the cube, when you're holding the TV, but also when you're doing outreach. Stand tall and be confident, because when we're slouching, it seems like we're not confident, and people can feel that. Remember, they're very, very smart. So if you're standing like this, looking up, and you sound confident, then they're going to take you more seriously, right? They're going to give you less shit. Let's just say that. So you want to come across as someone who is engaged, who's open, and who is inviting. You want to invite people to come to you and have a conversation. You don't want to be someone who seems unapproachable. And also for the bystander, you want to look at their body language and what they're doing. So sometimes people might seem very closed off if they're like this, and they're doing a lot of this, and they're coming up to you, and they're taking up all the space. It's important to also be aware of that. So you don't want to be too far away from, I don't want to be here trying to outreach you. Hey, how are you? This is too far. Social distancing, we used to do it. It's fine. We don't have to do it. We also don't want to be too close to someone because it's not very pleasant. So have some space, but also a comfortable space so that neither one of you needs to be yelling. Okay, you can comfortably hear each other. And if they're getting angry and they're coming too close to you, then you need to go back, but also don't show any signs of being scared. Okay, if they're getting a bit in your face, just stand tall like this, like he does it best. Yeah. Arm positioning, posture, hand movement, and eye contact is stuff that you can think about and be aware of when when you're doing outreach. So with your arm positioning, like I said, this is the best. And I try to, well, I don't try actually, it's something that I just do. I use my hands. So if that's what you do naturally, do it, but be mindful of pointing. So pointing is not very nice. Try to avoid that. And then eye contact is important. And I'll give you one very useful tip for eye contact. If you're talking to someone, let's say I'm outreaching Luca, when I'm talking to him, I'm doing the talking, I can look around, I can make sure the cube is running smoothly, I can, look at everything and then come back to him. But when he's talking, I should be looking at him and giving him eye contact, because doing that shows him that I'm engaged and I'm respecting him and I'm listening to what he has to say. If when he's talking I do this, then that shows that I'm not engaged or I'm not interested, okay? So when I do the talking, it's okay to look away and come back. When the bystander is doing the talking, it's the correct thing or the right thing to look at them and keep eye contact with them. This is very basic communication tip. Do's and don'ts of outreach. We don't want to, again, leaflet people. We don't want to bombard them with data and scientific facts, especially about medical, nutritional, or environmental topics. And we already talked about this, but it basically just goes above their heads because there's too much information available at the moment, and it's just not our specialty. A good productive outreach conversation has a good balance between lecturing, questions, and silence. So these three elements need to be present in an outreach conversation. What I mean by this is lecturing, basically, I don't mean literally lecturing, but I mean me doing the talking as an activist. Then the questions are the ones that I ask, but also the bystander might have for me. And then the silence. Silence is needed. Sometimes you need to pause, let the footage do its magic. And also when you say something, when you respond to an argument, pause, let it sink in, let them process it. If you're bombarding them with information and they don't have time to digest, when they walk away, they won't remember all of it. So let it sink in, let them digest the info before asking another question or making another point. Making sure that the information that you give them is heard and understood. When you ask them a question, making sure that they understood your question, let them answer, listen to their answer. If it was absurd, don't be fake, don't say, that's a really good question. Like if someone says, oh, but don't plants have feelings? That's a great question. It's not, it's dumb. So don't say that. This is what we mean. Being genuine or disingenuine, this is exactly what we mean. Okay? So if they have a question, answer their question. Let there be silence, just for a few seconds, so that they can absorb the information and then move on. Yes?
Just about the silence, sometimes it can be useful too when they give you an answer, but maybe it's kind of a jerk answer, to let them sit with it and think about what they just said.
What do you mean?
Sometimes they will give you an answer and then you just don't say anything. You keep listening to them, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's kind of stupid what I just said," or something like that. This actually happens a couple of times.
They say that?
Yeah, because they realize
yes.
the answer they just gave.
Exactly, exactly. That's why the silence or the pause is important. Exactly. So I'm gonna skip this. You good? No? These are some of the things that we shouldn't really say. The first one is you're supporting. So let's say I'm at a cube and this is the footage and I'm outreaching someone and I say, do you understand that when you're not vegan, you're supporting this? Do you understand that you're contributing to this? They are not supporting it. they are responsible for it. Okay, so what I would rather you say is either you are responsible for it or you are demanding it. Because every time they eat animals or what comes out of the animals, they are demanding for the animals to be exploited, right? When you say you're supporting it, it just means that they're passively doing it. Someone else is doing it and they're just passively saying yes to it, or, you know, supporting, contributing to it means that you're not the one in charge, you're not the one responsible. Again, this goes back to holding them accountable. So if you know that you have been saying supporting or contributing, I ask you to try it tomorrow. Instead, say you are demanding this or you're responsible for this, and then give me feedback. Vegan versus plant-based diet, we already touched on it, so I'll just quickly cover this. Our job as animal rights activists is to correct the language and address the confusion. As I said, there is a lot of confusion around this in our society, and it doesn't seem like it's getting better, because I feel like the media is doing such a good job as creating more confusion in the movies and TV shows and ads and things like that. So it's our job to correct it. We want to make sure that people don't see veganism as a diet anymore. They still do, but we do our best to correct it. Veganism applies to many aspects of our lives, not just the diet. Even though the most number of animals who are being exploited, this is happening to them because of food. That's the truth. But there are also so many other animals that are exploited in other industries. So we need to also be mindful of that. So someone could eat a plant-based diet while wearing animal skin and using products tested on animals. Why? Because they are doing it for their health. When someone says I'm plant-based, it's also a very vague term now. It doesn't always mean fully plant-based. A lot of times it means mostly plant-based, because someone could say, yeah, I'm actually plant-based, and then 5 minutes later you find out they eat honey, and sometimes they eat wild caught fish and whatever else, backyard eggs, and they call themselves plant-based. So what is it? It's okay to say vegan diet. We just need to make sure people understand that veganism is more than just a diet. I personally don't use it. I don't say vegan diet. Okay? I also don't like to say I'm a vegan. I like to say I reject animal exploitation. But sometimes you're forced because the person doesn't understand the language. But vegan diet is not something we should use. If it's used, then maybe we can explain it to clarify and correct the confusion. The next thing is referring to the animals as it or thing. Even animal rights activists still do this, and they refer to animals as it. Okay, when we do that, we're going with the common narrative. That is, the animals are just objects for us to use and abuse and exploit, right? And they're here for us. It's like, this is an it, this is an object. But if you're talking about a human, if you don't know their sex, that's fine. You can refer to them as they. You don't know if that particular animal is a she or oh, you see a dog. Oh, it was very beautiful. No, they were really beautiful. Okay? Because if we continue to speak like non-vegans do, then we're validating that whole mindset.
Juste en français, du coup, on n'a pas trop ce it. C'est plus, on dit pas une chose, mais on l'entend
Yeah,
pas trop.
true.
C'est quelque chose qui est plus pour quand on parle en anglais.
Yeah, true.
En français, on dit pas, il n'y a pas de it.
Exactly. You guys are lucky.
Ouais, par exemple,
Mais on peut
Vous
quand
êtes
même.
meilleur en fait.
par exemple, pour dire
But the thing is, I don't think we need to humanize them either, because they're non-human animals. It's not about humanizing them. I actually don't like it, for example, when people say my fur babies. You know what I mean? I personally don't like it. Like people who have dogs at home and they take care of dogs, and they say, I'm a dog mom. Or, you know what I mean? Like humanizing in that sense, I personally don't like. I'm just saying I don't like. I'm not saying that shouldn't be done. But We don't need to humanize non-human animals because we just need to respect that they are animals. We are animals, but we're different, and that we respect them and leave them alone. So yeah, referring to them as babies, I mean, it's fine, it's not harmful, but I don't see that as a benefit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so
Like I don't see it helps.
Voilà.
Jamais entendu quelqu'un dire ça.
You say ça?
Nobody will use
Jamais
that.
entendu
So.
quelqu'un dire ça. J'ai jamais entendu.
Vous voyez ça? Moi je mange pas ça. Maintenant c'est pas ça.
Wouldn't that be that?
Yeah, it would be that more.
Ouais.
Yeah.
But again, that's an
Disons que
object
celui qui
thing.
utilise ça en français,
Bah, c'est vrai quand
tu
tu
peux
parles
lui
de
donner le
nourriture,
nom,
on
quoi.
dit ça.
C'est pas la
Did you
peine.
see that? Isn't it like, did you see that?
Yeah.
That's,
There's
no, we
also-
shouldn't say that.
We shouldn't say that. We should say them. Or
Yeah.
Same for.
Okay, this slide I've called it Cringe Party. I don't know if that makes sense in French. It does? So these are the phrases. We sort of touched on it. Friends, not food. Animal lovers, don't eat animals. Be kind, be vegan. Peace, love, veganism. Sometimes you might see these on a t-shirt, you know, or obviously we ask that people wear plain black if they don't wear AV clothing. For example, someone was wearing like a wristband that said, be vegan. That's simple. You know, how can I be against that? That doesn't go against that principle. But if someone shows up with a friends not food, then I will ask them to wear it, you know, inside out. So these are the things that go against what we teach in AV, okay? Again, it's about respecting animals and not exploiting them. It has nothing to do with love or being kind or being friends with them. The next thing is chicken periods. I don't know if this is used here in France, but I don't want to get into the fact that it's not technically a correct term. I actually want to focus on the fact that when you say you're eating chicken periods to someone instead of eggs, you're actually bringing up a health argument, because you're focusing on the fact that something that comes out of a chicken's ass is disgusting for them to eat, and therefore they should not eat it. So people already know they're eating all kinds of animals, you know, inside and out of the animal body parts that are processed into whatever food. They are already well aware of that. They eat, you know, all kinds of disgusting things. So our issue with this is that this is a health argument. If you try to say something is disgusting, why is it disgusting? It's a health argument.
Can you stop referring to eggs as?
C'est pour ça qu'on
How do you say disgusting?
Yeah, that's what he just said. Dégoûté.
Dégoûté.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you bring up any argument about something that is disgusting, you're focusing on the health aspect. Because from a health point of view, is disgusting. Let's say a meal had gone bad and it had flies over it, then it's disgusting for me to put that in my body. So when you say something that comes out of a chicken's asshole is disgusting to eat, or sausages are disgusting to eat because they're different body parts of the animal, then you're focusing on the health argument. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's about hygiene. Hygiene is about health. I think we can skip this, given it's not relevant to the cube. And that's it. That's the end of the AV Masterclass. We can do a Q&A if you have any questions, and then we can do some role play. Any questions?
I have one that's not deep. It's about body language and arm positioning.
Yes.
You said it's better on the back, but I think I'm doing right, but I prefer
Like this?
like that. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's also fine, because it's usually this one. So I'll just repeat it for the recording. I'll repeat what the question was, which is about the hand positioning during outreach. So when we say this is showing a sort of closed off posture, I think this is different, because this is more relaxed.
So this
Do you
is
agree?
okay. I don't
Yeah.
look too much like a bodyguard or something like that.
No, I don't think so. What do you think? No, I think this is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you end a conversation with a child, how do you end the conversation? You don't tell him if you're not vegan, you're responsible for this. How do you end the conversation?
When you talk to a very young child, it's a totally different flowchart, right? You have to create your own. It's impossible to go through that. But I will share what I did with that little girl because it was the most recent and it was a really good one. I actually didn't record it. It would have been good if it was recorded. But the number one thing is I like to get on their level physically. That's really important. Then I like to ask, so I make an exception. Okay, I ask them, do you like animals? Okay, because I'm talking to a kid. And then I say, do you think this is okay what people do to them? Okay, and they say no. And so anyway, at the end of the conversation with this girl, what I did was I said, okay, so next time when you're home and your mom and dad give you chicken or sausage or yogurt, so I was naming all the products, okay, for her to understand. What do you say? You say no. And she said, I say no. It was the most adorable. So this is how it, and then I asked this multiple times because she wasn't even going. She kept walking away and she kept coming back to me and the parents were standing there, so they had no problem. So then I said, so tell me, what do you say? I say no. So that was her declaring to be vegan. I mean, you never know with the kid, but I would like to think that because she sees the images at such a young age, it's going to leave an imprint on her mind, and that conversation she's going to remember. Yeah.
I often use compassion to start a discussion, because for me, it able to select the people that have the most chance to change. So I used compassion and then to go to justice.
Yeah, so
is it okay for you?
like we shared on the flowchart, the first steps that we have are establishing what exploitation is and the definition of veganism and respecting animals. So we actually don't use compassion at all, because compassion is amongst those words that we just discussed. So instead of compassion, we focus on empathy, right? Compassion and empathy, but we don't even use the word. We use it by indirectly by asking those questions, by putting the victim by putting the oppressor in the victim's position, because empathy means just that, right? When you empathize with someone, you put yourself in their position and you feel their pain, right? So instead of saying those things, you actually get them to feel that and put themselves in the victim's position, and the focus is on exploitation and on respect. So we actually never use the word compassion at the Cube. Yes.
Moi, je vais le dire en français parce que, voilà. C'était une question, on en parlait avec Cyril justement, comment dans le monde entier on peut sensibiliser les gens, parce que les Français, les Espagnols, nous sommes des Latins. On n'est pas pareil que les Anglo-Saxons, qui ne sont pas les mêmes que les Asiatiques. On n'a pas les mêmes approches. Donc, est-ce que c'est pas quelque chose à travailler culturellement, les approches? Parce que si on est trop brutal, je pense, avec un Français, eh ben, il va être brutal aussi. Alors, on essaye de rentrer un petit peu dans le jeu avec lui pour psychologiquement, voilà, être pas dans la compassion, mais pas de le faire sentir comme une merde. Je sais pas si c'est clair, même en français.
She thinks maybe we should adapt the way we talk to people by region. Like a French person, we shouldn't be too brutal with them because they would feel like shit. And so we should adapt to the country. Like, yeah. Well, you know that question. It's something that comes often, and that's also something I work on as a regional organizer. When, for example, some organizers want to implement local. I just heard, actually, that's a really good question. I heard that one chapter is using local images, not AV images, global, international. That's also why I started my introduction with saying that it's a universal matter without frontiers. And that's why AV exists, is to make a protocol that is applicable to everyone, even if you're shy, not shy, and you can talk to anyone, whatever the region, the country. But yeah, I'll let you answer. So should we change?
I think that's a really good question. Thank you.
You can take the example of Japan, because I spoke with an activist who said that in Japan, AV doesn't work because it's not the same culture. So I think this.
That's a good question. So first, I want to talk about the footage because you brought it up, and then we'll go into the outreach. So we used to allow region-specific footage, and we've trialed different things. But the thing is, if we allow that, we are doing the pandering that we say we shouldn't do, right? When we stick to one standard footage for all the chapters around the world that is inclusive of everything that needs to be shown, we are avoiding the conversation about, is this local? But what? I don't think this is an isolated case. This is not how it happens in my home country. Because, for example, when you do a cube in Paris or Amsterdam or a big city like that, you're going to be talking to a lot of tourists. And what happens if you're showing local footage and then the person from another country says, is this local footage? Because it doesn't happen like this in my country, because we do it differently. You see? And this is pandering. If we pander to them, that's exactly what it means. So we're trying to cater to them and their needs. All that matters is that it's standard footage. We know it's standard practice. It happens everywhere around the world, and it's not about the treatment, it's about the exploitation. So that's why we decided to stick to standard footage. Now, when it comes to the outreach protocol, AV started in 2016, like I said. How we used to do outreach back then was nothing like how we do it now. We've tried so many different techniques. We had more of a sales approach back then, trying to bring people in and get them interested and excited. There are also other groups doing it that way, right? But what we found effective is how we do it now, because within about 3 to 5 minutes, if you follow the protocol, you can decide if the person is going vegan or not. And if they're not going vegan, if they're not interested, you don't waste your time, you don't waste your energy, and you just walk away from them. So I just want to emphasize on the fact that we don't want to be aggressive and rude to people. That's not what we're doing. We just want to be very firm with them, and we want to be brutally honest. We want to hold them accountable. The truth is that it's an uncomfortable topic. It brings up guilt in people. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. I'm from Iran, and when I talk to Iranian people, it's the same. They find it to be aggressive and too much. I have never talked to any nation who finds it just enough. You know what I mean? So it's not about the people. It's not like this is suitable for one culture or one country or one nation and the other ones find it too aggressive. Everyone would say that because it makes them uncomfortable. Because it touches exactly what it's supposed to be touching. Okay? It brings up the guilt. Now, I want to clarify this. We don't want to be, we don't get anything out of this, right? I'm not doing this because it makes me feel good to look down on people and be like, I'm better than you peasant non-vegan, right? I'm not superior to you. Morally, I am because I'm doing the right thing. I'm not a hypocrite, blah, blah, blah. Personally, I don't give a shit about any of that, okay? If I was an animal, this is how I would want someone to speak up for me. That's all I care about. But the truth is, we're not getting anything out of that. And therefore, we shouldn't care about what they think we are wanting from this. Does that make sense? It's a bit complicated. But we are just holding them accountable, and the fact that we're bringing up the guilt is a good thing. Because if the guilt and the shame doesn't come up, there won't be a sense of urgency for change and for them to take action. This is why I focus on the emotions. Because if you want to go into a debate about this and that, you go into people's heads. The mind and the brain is the one that is heavily conditioned with all this information and the school and the government and all of that. But the heart is the one that does not get conditioned. You cannot program the heart. The heart, when I say, I don't mean the physical heart, but I mean where the emotions sit, where our values sit. So if the person has the value of being anti-exploitation or against violence, etc., that value sits in the heart. We just need to reach and grab it, okay? And you can do that by following the protocol. So when you show people the footage, when you follow the protocol, then you hold them accountable. Then they're going to start to feel that uncomfortable feeling. They're going to be like, yeah, of course, I've been doing this my whole life. I'm responsible for it. Makes me feel guilty. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm a piece of shit. I need to reject. I need to defend myself because I don't like this feeling. Okay, it's an eye-opening moment, especially if they've never been in that position. They've never been told the truth. So that's why they say this doesn't work. That's why they say you are very extreme. You are rude. But it's always the same. It doesn't matter where you go in the world. Everyone's going to say that. And it works everywhere. That's why it comes down to whoever is ready to receive the message and to take action. Those who are open say, yeah, that is what changed me. And those who are not open, they say, yeah, those are extremist vegan. And, you know, we've had so many people who went vegan on the spot at the Cube and they became activists. We have activists within AV that are organizers that went vegan because of AV. So it comes down to the person. I just want to add to what Bushra said. Yeah, you're right. The feeling that comes up is theirs. It doesn't belong to us. The guilt and the shame and whatever else comes up that is uncomfortable belongs to that person. If they don't like it, they need to do something about it. I personally, on outreach or in my personal life or whatever, if someone says something to me and it makes me feel yucky and uncomfortable, I think about why that mattered to me. If Mathilde makes a comment and I feel sad or upset or frustrated or whatever, maybe I will tell her, or maybe I will go and think, why am I still thinking about that? Or why am I still, feeling it in my body? Why am I so pissed off? Maybe it's something for me to think about. Maybe I should do something about it. It's the same thing. If someone is feeling guilty, then maybe they should change it. Change the way that they're living and that they're behaving. So I really like that. Any other questions? Yes? Yes, boss? Luca, can we have the mic?
You have a question?
Yes. But,
Oh, you have a question? Okay, after.
je peux le faire en français aussi, c'est plus simple, mais...
That's fine.
Est-ce qu'on pourrait, à la place ou en rajoutant à exploitation, parler de massacre directement, que ce soit beaucoup plus...
Exploitation
Parce que j'ai l'impression... Exploitation, j'ai vraiment l'impression que c'est pas assez fort par rapport à ce que c'est réellement. Et que c'est devenu un mot un peu presque neutre, En tout cas en France, je sais pas
I
ailleurs.
think I understood. He's saying using the word massacre instead of exploitation. But
Exploitation is too neutral, not strong enough.
you think exploitation is not strong enough?
Yes.
En fait, il faudrait l'équivalent de abuse.
So,
Ouais.
so the thing is, we actually made this update recently to stay away from all the other words and stick to exploitation. And we had we had the same workshop in Amsterdam, and it went for 6 hours, and maybe for half an hour we were just discussing this word. So it seems like we can't find the perfect word that we all agree with, but it seems like this is so far the best word that we have. That is the most inclusive in what we are trying to say, because we used to say, you know, abuse, and then it became, if we use the word abuse, it becomes about whether there's a right way to use animals. So then we said, okay, we will stay away from that. If we use the word cruelty or violence, again, it doesn't even depict what the animals are going through. Exploitation seems like the most suitable because it's what's happening. So exploiting means using someone against their will, right? And that is exactly what's happening to the animals in all the different industries and all the different ways. They are being tortured, they're being raped, they are being brutally murdered. All of that fits into exploitation. So if we were to say massacre instead, that's only about the killing or the murder. So up until they get to the kill floor, what they have gone through is being ignored. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think that he is not wrong. We have to use exploitation, but we have always to explain and to complete
Of
and
course.
to explain what is exploitation, to resume, to summarize what is exploitation,
Yes.
insemination, etc. Exactly what you say.
Yeah, of
In
course.
France, we have to explain that.
No,
because-
it's everywhere because
Okay.
we have now put it in the flowchart as well. So a lot of times when you say exploitation, the person doesn't know. So I like to go in and say, do you understand what the word exploitation means? Yes. Can you tell me what it means to you? If they give me a good enough definition, I leave them alone. If not, I will tell them. And everything that comes up on the screen, you know, like the rape or anything, then I'll say, see, this is exploitation. But yeah, so far, I think that's the best word that we have. So if we can think of a better word that includes all of that, I'm open to it. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with the exploitation because I have
Oh,
two
maybe
examples.
wait.
Oh, sorry. I try in English. I have two examples. My brother was military, so yeah, they use dog for sniff. I don't know the name in
Yes.
English. Sniff.
For bombs.
Yeah.
And this is an exploitation. This is not
Exactly.
a massacre, but this is not okay never. And I was zookeeper before being vegan, and we used to dresser, train. Je sais plus comment on dit les otaries. Yes.
What?
Sea lion. Sea lion.
The mammals,
Awesome.
sea
Ah,
mammals, sea
okay.
lions.
Sea lions.
Sea
yes.
lions.
Sea lions. And finally, they have all
I was like, what is Mathilde turning to?
Je fais très bien l'otarie. Ouais, c'était vraiment ça. So we
Yeah,
used
all
to
of that, right?
training with sea lions, and finally, all their life was just work for our food. So finally, it's an exploitation. It's not acceptable, but it's not a massacre. So I think exploitation is better.
Yeah.
It's a good word.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because it includes everything. All right, next question. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so mine is not about how to use the protocol for non-vegans. We actually talked about this in Amsterdam a little bit, but I don't know if there's been any movement on there. Do we now have a protocol to outreach vegans?
Vegans?
Yeah, and convince them to go active.
We don't have a protocol, but we just tell them. So when I'm doing outreach, and sometimes they let me go into it, and I'm like, why didn't you like say it from the start? But then after some time they're like, oh, I'm actually vegan. Now it's a really good question that you brought up, because sometimes people lie to us, of course, so we need to catch them in that lie. When someone says I'm vegan, I ask them, one, how long have you been vegan for? Because that usually gives me an indication. Two, what was the reason you went vegan? So that I can see if they're actually vegan. And then if I think that they're actually vegan, then I say, do you do any activism? If they say no, then I give them that line at the end of the flowchart, which is, it's really important for you to speak up for the animals. We don't have enough people to speak up for them. And, you know, you can come and join us. This is, you know, how we do it. And I ask them, where are you from? Where do you live? Oh, we actually have a chapter there. This is how you can join them. I even show them. I give them a card if they want to, so they can go and join the group. Or if they don't have a chapter there, I say, you know, you can start your own chapter. You can do this in your city. It's really important that you speak up for the animals. So this is how I do it. We don't have a protocol. It's just you making it clear to them that it's important for them to get active. And I actually always say you don't have to join us, but it's important for you to do activism for the animals, because being vegan is a non-action. You're not actually doing something. You're just not doing the thing that the rest of the society is doing. So you need to take action for the animals. But yeah, I usually give them a card, encourage them to get active. That's it.
The protocol in Avignon is to send vegan to you.
To Ram?
Yeah, but I was asking because...
Because he's the organizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I was asking the question is I went to Lyon a couple of weeks ago, and we did some outreach. It wasn't a cube, but we had like a stand and stuff like that. Yeah. And I spotted a vegan in the crowd. It was very obvious she was vegan because she had like a t-shirt with a listing of what animals are not, you know. Mm-hmm. And nobody ever wears that kind of thing that is not a vegan.
Yeah.
So when she finally got up to the stand, I kind of tried to apply the protocol on her. Mm-hmm. By basically, I said the same thing, like you realize like when you go vegan, that's a non-action because you're not doing something to help the animals, you're just no longer doing something you should never have been doing in the first place. Mm-hmm. But you're not doing anything to help them. So if you were in the animal's position, would you want help? And then she was like, yeah. And so don't you think you should be doing something to help them too? And I don't know, it kind of seemed like it worked, so...
Yeah. No, I love it. I'm just laughing because it's like the vegan would be like, oh God, I should have never stopped. But yeah, I like that. I think, yeah, you can use that sort of a protocol by asking the questions and get them to become active, because there are so many vegans. Well, there are definitely more vegans that are not activists than there are. So if they were all going to get active, that would be really good for the animals. So yeah, I think maybe that's something we can talk about more and see if we can have like a, not as long of a protocol, maybe like a shorter one with a few questions. I like that, like a standard thing. Yeah, that's good. Good update. That's why I like doing these workshops, because there's always updates coming out of it.
I have a question about the word omnivore.
Yeah.
As an unacceptable word,
Yeah.
because sometimes people say we are carnivores, so we have to eat animals, or I don't know, and that is not true. And so I always tell them, no, you are not carnivore, you are omnivore, which means you can.
But then I would argue with you, and I would say we are herbivores. See, that's the thing. We don't need to get into these arguments with people because it's very scientific and it has nothing to do with the animals being exploited. You know what I mean? So by doing that, you're getting into the same argument that they throw at you.
I'm not sure because I think science say we are omnivore, but it just means that we are able to get, I don't know, to digest vegetables and.
Yes, but the people you are facing, just explaining you that you will not change, or she will not change. That's what you have to understand. If she speaks about that, this means she will not change. So you are losing your time. I think so.
Yeah, see, we don't get into these arguments about health or science with people because the person who is throwing that argument at you is not going to be receptive of the information you have for them, because a simple Google search would give them that information that they're not a carnivore. They can't be possibly thinking that, right?
So you're just telling we are not, and that's it. We are not carnivore. That's not true. And you
to
continue.
that person.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the conversation. Like, how would they say it? If they say that, I would just even cut them off mid-sentence and I would say, you're not a carnivore. A lion is a carnivore. And I'm not here to have a scientific debate with you. You can do a Google search and you can find it out. And then I'll bring it back to the animals and I will point the footage and I would say, you know, can you imagine yourself being one of these animals? So I will control the conversation. What's really important is to know and to remember that you're in charge of the conversation the whole time. Don't let them distract you with these arguments and also don't let them control. You're the one in charge. At any point you want to redirect the conversation, you can. You don't have to explain it yourself. So you can bring it back. If you don't know what to do, what to say, if there's too much silence, or if they ask something and you don't know if your answer was sufficient, quickly answer, bring it back to the animals. That's what we have, okay? The footage, putting them in the victim's position, all of that. Because even if you were to have a 5-10 minute debate with that person, I guarantee you they will have other arguments on the same level. If there are people walking around that think they're carnivores, I can only imagine what other things they have in their heads. Diego, did you have a question or no?
No, I'm just holding
Oh, okay.
I have a practical question.
Yes.
When a young child is watching the screen, do we still have to check the parents' agreement or not anymore? Because I heard the new rule 5 months ago, but I didn't understand why we should not check the parents' agreement anymore.
We've never had a rule to check with the parents. So if there are kids running around, it's the parents' responsibility.
Yeah, I agree.
So we don't have to go and be like, oh, where's your parent? I need to find them and ask them. No, let them watch. But I personally, I still think, because if they're very young and they don't really, they're not basically responsible for a lot of the stuff because it's the parents' job. I don't want them to be traumatized either, so I don't want to let them watch it without knowing what they're watching. I like to immediately go up to them and explain it in whatever way they can understand, but I would never cover their eyes or not let them watch.
Okay.
I actually think that they can process it better than many people think. Because a lot of times people get really angry and they're like, you shouldn't be watching this, showing this to kids. They're going to have nightmares. They're going to be traumatized. If they don't know what they're showing, what they're watching, sorry. But if they know what they're watching, I think they're fine. They can process it. And if the parent is not around, that means that it's fine for the kid to be walking around like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
With kids, I don't make them feel like, I'm not going to say you're a hypocrite, of course, but I will call them for action. Because I think it's also the solution for them not to feel traumatized after the conversation, to feel like they're empowered and they can join us when they're grown-ups. they can be animal rights activists, they can be animal defenders,
Yes.
like a superhero.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's my way of
I like that.
trying to put that little thing in their mind that someday they can become animal rights activists.
Yeah, I like that.
And so they don't feel just passive and sad.
Yeah, and like
powerless.
helpless.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I outreached this young boy with his mom in Amsterdam. I think he would have been maybe 8 or 9, and he was very smart. And I outreached him, and I could tell he wants to be a vegan. And so I put the mom on the spot because the mom wasn't as receptive. And I said to her, so your son wants to be vegan. Are you going to let him be vegan? And I could tell that it's a very uncomfortable position for her to be in, because then the son's gonna, when they go home, he's gonna have that conversation and be like, but you said yes in front of the lady. But no. See? So I kept pushing, and at the end she was like, yeah, it's his choice. If he wants to be vegan, then that's fine. And that was one time that I high-fived someone because I was convinced the boy's going vegan.
The kid or the mom?
The kid. The mom, I didn't touch. Yeah, so it depends, you know. And the age is very important because, like, that little girl that I was talking about was less than 4, but this boy was much older, so I could use better language to communicate. But yeah, I really like what you said as well, to give them some power and confidence, and so that they don't feel like it's just sad and miserable for the animals, because kids have a lot of empathy and they haven't been conditioned yet, so they're in touch with that. So they feel a lot more than adults, and it's really good if we can get through to them.
I think, can you repeat?
Any more questions? Yes?
So it's more out of curiosity, but like, so you've been doing cubes in a lot of different countries, and I was wondering if you feel that in France people are more or less open to the message about animal exploitation, and if people have more doubt than you can actually live without eating animals or their secretions. Because I saw a number, it was like 80% of people in France believe that we have to eat animals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I don't know how you feel about it in comparison to other countries.
I think it's sort of the same everywhere, because I think most people think that we should eat animals and we need animals, and they're used to it, so it's okay. But I think with French people, when I'm in France, I do less outreach with French people because they don't want to speak to me in English, and my French is not as good. But when I'm like in another country, like in Amsterdam, I spoke to a lot of French people, because when they're outside of the country, they suddenly can speak English. But one thing I have to say is that they seem like really arrogant and self-entitled when it comes to the topic. I was talking to this vegetarian couple, this French couple, and they were much older, and they were the most self-entitled people. And it was so hard to, what did they say? Oh my God, it was insane. I think I have it recorded. I think I was showing the dairy industry, and at the same time, and I was like, so do you know about the dairy industry? And then the cows were being raped or whatever. And I said, she said something, and I said, and this is like a much older lady, like she might have been 80. And I said, so you think it's okay for the cows to be raped for your cheese? And she said, oh, that doesn't happen. And I said, it does happen everywhere. And she was like, no, that doesn't happen. I said, what planet do you live on? And I walked off. So I was like, if I stand for one more second, I'm going to be so pissed off. But how can you be so arrogant and, yeah, shrug your shoulder and be like that? So, I mean, it's not just French people, but yeah, I think, last night when we were hanging out and I was trying the foie gras for the first time, I was thinking, this is not even that good. And apparently it's close to the real thing. And I was thinking, what is wrong with people? Like, why is that such a delicacy? Like, why is that such a special treat? No, the foie gras.
Oh yeah, because cheese.
No, the cheese is great. Of course, the cheese is great. But I'm saying this to say that I was sitting here and thinking all of these thoughts. So I was thinking, so the foie gras that they love and they're so proud of, it's one of the most fucked up things, right?
Yes.
If French people are so proud of it, and it tastes disgusting, like, you know what I mean?
It's just fat.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about this, and it's about a lot of things as well. Like, I was walking around in Avignon. I mean, Avignon is a small place, but I could tell that all the shops that sell shoes, they're all animal skin, 99%. So I think, yeah, in a lot of cultures is like this pride in using animals in all the different ways, and sometimes you feel really frustrated and helpless thinking, how am I going to change these people's minds? So yeah, I don't know if that's what you wanted to hear, but that's my honest opinion. But at the same time, I will say this: French activists have always been the most inspiring for me, because when I'm this is my first cube in Avignon, but when I'm in Paris, I always feel like everyone's acting like a soldier. I don't need to remind them of the protocol, so I feel really proud.
Yay! Thank you, Asal.
Yes. Yes.
Comme tu as beaucoup voyagé, justement, est-ce qu'il y a des partis politiques véganes abolitionnistes qui existent sur Terre ou pas encore?
I'm not sure if I understood correctly. Yeah, I got that.
And are there political parties that are animalists that exist in other countries, but that are abolitionists?
Abolitionists. We have the Animal Justice Party in Australia, but they do single, what do they call it? Single focus campaigns, like they try to ban live export, for example. Like, that doesn't mean anything. That's not targeting the exploitation, that's targeting the treatment. So the answer is no, I don't think so. Yes.
In France, we have la rêve. Oh. In France, we have la rêve, révolution écologie pour le climat, pour le vivant. Who is politique. Je vais continuer en français. Même en français, j'y arrive pas. C'est un parti politique antispéciste et écologique et pour la fin de l'exploitation systémique, voilà, même contre les génocides, tout ça, voilà. On a ça en France.
But they also have like a environmental focus.
Right.
So I don't know if it's like
they talk about the living things, like the river is
Yeah. So they're not focused on the animals. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they might exist, the political parties that are abolitionist or anti-speciesist. They might exist, but I'm not aware of them. Yeah. Any more questions? Otherwise, we can go into role play. No more questions?
Just a remark, every time I finish a successful discussion, I often explain to people that every vegan I encountered these last 10 years explain this is the best decision they made in their life.
Yes.
I think it's a good way to
Yeah.
pour motiver to.
Yeah, that's
people.
awesome. And yeah, I usually say when people ask me, so how long have you been vegan for? And I say 15 years. And I immediately say, and my only regret is that I didn't go vegan sooner. I always say that. It's like automatic. It comes out, you know, as soon as I tell them, so that I make it clear that not only I don't regret it, I don't miss out on any, you know, food or nutrition, I actually think it's the best decision. Yeah, so that's good.
15 is 1, 5?
Yes, cans. All right, that's it. No more questions. So it's 6:10. Maybe we can do. I mean, we'll see how we go. We can do some role play. Yeah, we can do one.
I can be the bystander if you want.
I can be the bystander.
I don't master the new
No,
flowchart
you can
yet.
be the bystander.
I don't master it yet.
If we do it in English,
Oh, that's right.
is it a good idea? Should we do one in English, one in French?
Yeah, but how are you going to do it in French?
No, I won't do it in French. I will be watching. But I'm just wondering if we do outreach, because I want to understand it.
Oh, it's
If
good
we
if you
do
can
it
give.
in English, is everyone going to get benefit from that?
Oui, mais elle peut pas le faire en français. C'est intéressant d'avoir son feedback. Oui, quelqu'un peut traduire, mais oui. Someone can translate, maybe.
Because if we do it, yeah, like if we do it in French, there might be parts I don't understand, so then I won't be able to give feedback.
Yeah, that's it. And your feedback is what matters right now.
Yeah.
I'll put subtitles, maybe, for later,
Yeah.
so everyone, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So, are you gonna outreach me? Someone wants to outreach me, and then someone can outreach you in French. How's
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
No, you don't. I don't need that.
Qui est-ce qui veut faire le sensibilisateur, sensibilisatrice? On a le flowchart là.
We have the flowchart. You can use it. You don't have. If you forget, it's fine.
Ah, je vous l'ai envoyé en français, je peux vous le. Il est sur la page de. Vous l'avez tous, je l'ai envoyé sur la page de la formation. Donc comme ça, je peux vous l'afficher là sur le téléphone, il y a juste à lire. Si vous voulez, je le.
We have it
Yes.
here as well.
Yeah, oui, yeah.
But also, because this is the first time we're using this flowchart, if you miss steps, I don't care, as long as you stick to the protocol and the principles.
Je l'ai envoyé.
Mais je vais me tromper, hein, c'est sûr.
Mais on s'en fout, c'est ce qu'elle vient de dire, c'est pas grave. Regarde, c'est là.
So this is your outreach,
Ça se croque, tu vas l'enfer.
and we pretend this is the TV, okay?
Okay.
So if we laugh, it's fine, but we're gonna try and keep it as real as possible, okay?
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
I see that you're looking at the screen.
Yes.
How do you feel when you see those footages?
I feel really sad. I feel bad for the animals.
Okay, so you stand against animal. You think it's animal abuse. Do you think it's fair what you're saying that? Would you say that you're against it?
Yes, I'm definitely against it.
Okay. Would you agree that we have to...
Sorry to pause
Okay.
you. Maybe it's better to pretend that this is the TV.
Yeah, I think it's better too.
So we're facing everyone.
Okay. So you told me you were against it. Do you think we should respect animals instead of...
What do you mean by respecting animals?
what I mean by
Do you
respecting
think we
animals...
should treat them like humans? Is
I
that
think
what you mean?
by respect, I mean stop exploiting animals. Is it clear to you?
When you say exploiting, what do you mean?
I mean... She's hard on me.
Really easy.
Yes. I mean, stopping exploiting them is that you don't want. Sorry, in English it's harder for me.
That's fine.
That you don't want to restrain their freedom, or you don't want to abuse them. You don't want to rape them. You don't want to kill them. You don't want to make them born or whatever. You don't want to see them as objects of conceptions. They are persons.
I see.
Okay, is it clear to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that you can respect or be against animal exploitation on one side, and on the other side continue consuming milk, eggs, dairy, meat or fish or whatever?
I think you can respect animals but eat some of the products. Like, you know, if it was humane.
Okay, so
that's respectful.
Would you think it's a way to respect an animal if we kill him in the end?
Yeah, I think if you do it humanely.
Okay, but if you were in the place of the victim, in the place of the animal, would you consider it reasonable, what you were saying? Would you say that it's fair if you were in his place, in the place of the animal that you see?
No, because I'm not an animal.
Well, actually, you are. That's that's. Number 2. Yeah.
Yeah, you can keep that in the back of your mind.
Actually, you are an animal, and if you were in their position, you're not. But if you're in their position, do you want people like you to go on and give money for their exploitation, or do you want them to stop?
No, I wouldn't, but it's the circle of life.
Okay, I'll see you.
Okay, good. Yeah, good job.
So,
yeah, nice.
Complicated.
Yeah, that was good. See, yeah, when I said, but I'm not a human, I'm not an animal, and you said, yes, actually you are. I think, yeah, you should say that a little bit more clearly and maybe explain it, because most people say that, you know, but I'm not an animal. Animals and, well, non-human animals, right, and human animals, what's the difference? Then we need to ask the person, you know, what is that thing that makes you different to these animals? Okay, because that matters. Then they should be able to put themselves in the victim's position.
Something that doesn't exist in English, I think.
Okay.
But in France, we have 2 words that are used to... And the thing is, we have agriculteur, which means any kind of farmer, including plant farmers.
Ah.
And éleveur, which is specifically animal farmers.
Ah, okay.
And there is a lobby in France that is very powerful.
Yeah.
And they try to make it look like they are better than they are by calling themselves agriculteurs. Which is why I couldn't help myself. But
you say it doesn't exist in English, but you know, I actually never say farmer, because I think farmer should be farming fruits and vegetables, not animals. So I hate to say an animal farmer. I hate that.
Yeah. But in
So
France, we
it's
do
fine
have a
with the
dedicated word for that, so we should use it.
What is the
instead
word?
Of éleveur. Éleveur.
Raiser, éleveur.
Éleveur. Ah, éleveur. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with what you said. Yeah, because they're not farming vegetables. Yeah. Do you want to outreach me now? Because I feel like I can be a bit more difficult with you.
Yeah, okay. I'll be the...
Hi. How do you feel about humans exploiting animals?
Oh, I don't feel good. Where is this from, this video?
Oh, this is very standard practice. It's the same, like, this is just animal exploitation, standard. Would you agree that we should respect other animals?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah?
Yeah, I can't even watch this. This is really sad.
Yeah, that's sad. Yeah, I totally agree.
So what are you guys doing?
That we're showing the very standard practices of animal exploitation, whether it's in France or in the world, in the meat, dairy, fish, or egg industry. It's all RSPCA, local, grass-fed. You can see this, for example, is free range. Do you think that you can truly respect animals while consuming their flesh or fluids, like the eggs, the milk?
So you're vegan?
Yeah, well, I would say that I'm against all animal exploitation to benefit from it when it's not necessary, but I guess you could say I'm vegan, yeah. We're all vegans, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. By the way, they're brutal.
Cheeky. Look.
Do you know what the definition?
Yeah, I respect you for what you're doing. I'm never going vegan.
Do you know what vegan means? What is the definition of
Yeah,
vegan?
you basically don't eat animals, you don't eat dairy, you don't wear leather.
That's not it. It's one part of it, but the definition is that you reject all animal exploitation to benefit from it.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be the proper definition. And what would be the reason that is preventing you from going vegan today? If there was one reason, what would it be?
I love cheese.
Yeah, me too. You know, there are vegan cheeses now. Like, is it the only
I don't
reason?
Like them.
Oh, you don't like them?
No.
All right. Do you think the animal here likes, do you think your 5 minutes of taste pleasure is worth more than this animal's life?
No.
Yeah. If you put yourself in the victim position, if you put yourself in their position, like how fast would you want this exploitation to end?
Right away.
Right now. Yeah.
But I just think, if I go vegan, other people are going to do it, so it doesn't make a difference.
That's right, but would you say the same thing for any other injustice in the world? Like if the other people continue to enslave other humans or any kind of violence, would you say that? Like, I'm not going to change because people are not going to change.
No, you're right.
Do you know what the #1 benefit of going vegan is?
It's healthier.
Well, it's not the main reason. Like the #1 benefit would be for you, that you're no longer responsible for what you see on this here on the screens, and for the animals, they're no longer tortured, raped, and abused because of you.
But I wouldn't say I'm responsible, because if I don't eat them, someone else will eat them, right?
That's right, but when you consume animal products, you pay for someone to do this on your behalf.
But I'm not responsible for it.
You are directly responsible.
Yeah, thank you, Cyril. You're directly responsible for it because you chose to buy dairy product instead of soy, wheat, whatever kind of milk.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
So we did that. If you were in their position, how fast would you want this injustice to end? So from now on, should the number of animals exploited for you be 0 or more?
I don't think I will ever be vegan, but I think I'll definitely be more mindful from today.
Yeah, so you want to go little by little, step by step?
Yeah, I think that's
right.
better for me.
All right. Well, for the animals, it's their whole life. So every time you buy an animal products, that means that someone, an individual who shares the same capacity to feel emotions as you, who cares for their life, has been exploited. They can feel pain. They can suffer just like us. They can feel love. They can have friends. So, yeah. So are you going to go vegan from now on? Okay, I'm going a shortcut right now. I would speak more, but since,
No, it's fine.
So yeah, are you going to go vegan from now on? Now that you know that these are animals just like you. They are different because they're different animals than us, but they still feel Like there is one thing we have in common, it's that capacity to feel all these emotions and to be the subjects of our lives. And just for that reason, we should fight for them.
Yeah.
We should not be responsible for this.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I think I will be mostly vegan from now.
Damn, she's annoying. Just remember that as long as you continue to be responsible for this, as long as you continue to consume animal products, they will be used. They will be used and abused because of you, and you have that choice. So please, when you realize that you need to become vegan, also speak up for the animals, because they only have you, they only have us, they need you. Right, here's a card. Please.
Okay, thank you so much.
Find more information. No.
Sorry,
it was you, but not you.
And your finger almost touched
yeah.
No.
I don't shake hands with people who abuse animals. Go vegan. Have a good vegan life.
See, this is why the world is not going vegan.
Have a good vegan life. Bye.
You're too extreme.
That's right. I'm proud.
Thank you, Mathilde. That was really good. Yeah, so what I wanted to say, which is what Mathilde did, is, you know, you have the flowchart, you have step 1 to 9, but it's okay sometimes if it makes sense to swap them. You say this before that, you repeat it, you know, multiple times. And remember, you stick to the 4 principles that we have, which is 1, you hold the person accountable. 2, you put them in the victim's position, so the oppressor in the victim's position. And 3, that's okay. 3, there needs to be a call for action, so you don't just give them information and let them go. And the last one was not raising awareness and not leafleting. So this is not an educational event. We're holding them accountable, and that needs to happen throughout the conversation. Okay, as long as you stick to those, if you swap these points, these steps, and you add to it, you change it a little bit, it's all good. It's fine. Should we continue doing this?
Est-ce que quelqu'un d'autre veut s'entraîner?
If we have 2 people that would like to outreach each other, and I can sit, but if it can happen in English, that would be good.
Hiram, tu veux qu'on teste? Moi, je veux bien te sensibiliser.
Yes, Luca?
No.
Yes, please.
Do you want to be outreached by Iram?
So you can decide who wants to be
I'll
the
just put it on.
vegan, who wants to be the vegan. Who's the vegan?
I guess you'll be the whatever.
Are you the vegan?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so if you want to look at this, you just scroll it down.
Try to push him, you know, all the standard.
I'm not going to be
Try
as
to
good.
be an asshole.
She's amazing. But,
You're nasty, not vegan.
okay.
Not too much, though.
All right.
Non, c'est bon, c'est bon.
Oh, you have to have your backpack with this.
Hey, man.
Hey.
You're right.
What's that?
You're right.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, just checking this out. Where's this?
These videos, they come from Australia. What we are showing is basically
It's a lot different than around here. I don't think we do any of that here.
Yeah, so the reason we're showing these videos is because this is actually standard practice. Stuff like that happen all over the world. It's not even like considered to be animal abuse at all. It's completely legal, even here.
Okay.
If you are familiar with the French organization L214 and you actually go and watch their videos, you'll find out very quickly that this is actually lightweight. It's not very hard to see. How do you say you feel about that?
It's pretty intense. I mean, I knew it was it was pretty rough in there for them. Yeah, I mean, but that's the business. I mean, we all know that that's the way it happens, and we depend on meat. I mean, I don't know what I would do without meat. But yeah, I mean, it sucks for sure.
Do you think animals are individuals who deserve to be respected?
Well, yeah, I mean, they should be careful when they're doing it. I mean, it needs to be healthy and safe for us, and you know, not too much cruelty. Some of that looks like a little bullshit, but you know, it's the way it is. I mean, the world is this way, you know. I mean, we use each other. I mean, the animals are just, they're lesser. They're not the same as us, you know. I mean, I'm sorry, it's just the way it is.
You said earlier you thought you needed to eat animals.
Yeah. I mean, if I don't eat enough meat, I feel weak. I get dizzy.
Right.
Totally. And I know a lot of people that, like, they go to their chiropractor and they said they have to eat pork, you know. And like Chinese medicine, they're always telling you have to eat pork. So, I mean, I think it's necessary for food. That's why I'm saying, I mean, I don't know that really, I mean, I don't like this, but.
You are aware that there's whole continents of people who actually never eat meat in their whole life, right?
Where?
Like India.
Okay, well.
Do you think you're somehow genetically inferior to these people? In some way,
Maybe.
you actually are completely unable to not eat animals?
Yeah, it's a good point. I never thought of that before. I don't know.
Yeah.
Huh.
Do you think there's any need to eat any animal products? Not only animals themselves, but stuff like cheese, eggs?
I eat a lot of cheese and a lot of eggs. I always have. I mean, I don't think it's the same thing as, you know, doing a bunch of slaughter anyway. I mean, they're alive. I mean, they would be doing something anyway. We can just use their products, you know.
So the reason they are alive is they are being birthed in order to be exploited for these products, right? But the original question was not, do you eat cheese? It was, do you think you need to eat cheese?
Technically, I guess maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to have cheese per se, no.
You're aware that there's vegan bodybuilders? People who live on a vegan diet for a long, long time?
I don't know. Have you seen Indians? I mean, that really, I've never seen a vegan bodybuilder. I mean, okay, I mean, if you would know, so I believe you.
You can actually look that up on YouTube.
And they just eat plant stuff, that's it?
Pretty much. And
okay.
If you were to come by that information, like say later today, you go back home, you fire up YouTube and you look up vegan bodybuilder and then you find some, will you abandon the idea that you need to eat animal products to be healthy?
I guess so.
Alright, so let's just assume you just did that, because you could actually do it right now on your phone, right?
Right now?
Yeah, you could. But let's just assume.
Okay.
So that you don't have to.
All
Do you
right.
have anything else stopping you from becoming vegan today?
Bacon tastes good. Cheese is good. I mean.
Right. So let's say you are
That's-
in the position of these animals, right? And you're about to get a knife in the throat, and I'm trying to save you. Okay?
Yeah.
And the person I'm talking to is like, but I like it. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of bullshit, isn't it?
Right. So if you agree it's not necessary for health and that taste pleasure is not a valid excuse, is there anything else stopping you from going vegan?
Not really. That's about it.
Alright. Do you know what the number one advantage would be for you if you go vegan?
I'd save a lot of money at the restaurants I go to, I guess.
Sure, especially here in France because it's pretty hard to find vegan shit.
Yeah.
But that's not what I was thinking about.
It would be good for the animals, I guess.
Yeah, that is the main thing. You see, the benefit is if you actually do go vegan, the next time you see some footage like that and talk to a vegan and tell him you are opposed to animal exploitation, that won't be just words anymore, right? Because your actions will actually match with what you say your principles are. So it's going to be a chance for you to go through life without being a fucking hypocrite.
Well, I got you. That makes sense, man. I get you.
And believe me when I say that, when you actually do that, you align your actions with what your moral principles are, you feel better in your head, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
So what are you going to do
man.
then?
I'm gonna think about it. I mean, I hear you. I mean, you made some good points. You know, I mean, I want to see these bodybuilders, but you know, yeah, it's this is pretty fucked up. So yeah, thanks, man.
Just
Thanks.
a thing though, like, I think it's a good thing you want to think about it. I'm never going to tell people that it's not okay to think, because I consider people who don't want me to think are never my friends. But ask yourself this, between now and the moment in the future when you will have thought enough, how many animals should die for you?
Yeah, none really.
Yeah.
It's true.
If you were these animals, how fast would you want you to go vegan?
Pretty freaking fast.
All right. So what are you going to do now? Today.
I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna sign up.
Go vegan.
Is there an application or?
He looked like an asshole at the beginning.
I know, he did.
Yes.
Oh.
That was 9 minutes. You went from someone who was very self-entitled.
I think he has to become an official trainer.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, you were doing such a good job being a non-vegan.
You're very easy to talk to. Are you American?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You couldn't tell from the accent?
But some people just... Anyway, so
yeah, easier than a French guy, right?
Easier than anyone who's not a native, actually, because I just always remember, like, I realize that when I talk to people, if they're natives, I'm gonna... my English becomes better because I know the little things that they don't actually give a fuck. So
I see what you mean. I love when you said a fucking hypocrite. And then his response was so good.
I've been cussing too, so it was a match.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that was good.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, from non-vegan to vegan in 9 minutes. That was good. The only thing I would say is at the start he said, where are these videos from? And you said from Australia. Yeah. You should never say that. You shouldn't actually, because then it becomes about, oh no, I don't believe you. It doesn't happen like this here. Even if you say, oh, go to that website and see it for yourself. So when they ask, I never give it away where the videos are from. I even lie and say the videos are taken from multiple places around the world and it shows standard practice. Because the reality is that it shows standard practice, and many activists have told me that what we show is what's the word? It doesn't even show the worst of it, like what you just said. So it actually happens way worse than that. And what we're showing is the most, standard. So let them think it's local. But yeah, other than that, that was pretty good, right?
That was great.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, should we do one more? Maybe we can do a French one.
Quelqu'un veut le faire en français une fois? 2 personnes?
Not me, just between two people.
On a les questions en français sur la page de l'event. Donc si quelqu'un veut le faire.
Moi, je veux bien être le non vegan.
C'est bien si c'est peut-être 2 autres personnes.
Ouais.
Lucas? Pourquoi?
I'm shy.
No, come on. It's in French.
I have to check for
Nah,
the
come
video.
on.
Alex?
Alex? Come on. Yeah, come on.
Il nous faut une deuxième personne du coup?
Pourquoi?
Tu veux faire
Pourquoi?
quoi, la sensibilité
I'm
ou la
shy.
sensibilité?
Everyone's shy. I want to understand all of it. I want to understand some of it, and then you can help.
Nani wanted to do it otherwise?
You. Do you want to do it? Yeah.
Cyril.
Ah oui, c'est vrai,
This is for you.
Je te donne, tu l'as en français?
Sensibiliser, hein.
Mais pas la version à 3. Ça va.
Poubelle.
C'est qui le vegan du coup?
Bah, c'est moi du coup, je crois. Ouais, c'est ça. Oui, je suis sensible. Ouais,
Non, moi
ok.
je.
Ok, ça va. Ça va.
Vas-y, vas-y.
On peut commencer, c'est bon. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Qu'est-ce que vous pensez du fait que les humains exploitent d'autres animaux?
Ah, vous parlez de ça là?
Ouais.
En fait, ils font quoi exactement? Je vois pas là. Il est en train de lui mettre le bras dans l'anus là. Qu'est-ce qu'il
C'est
fait avec
ça,
ça?
ouais, en fait, ça c'est pour la production de lait. Du coup, dans l'industrie laitière, en fait, les vaches produisent du lait comme nous, en tant que mammifères, quand elles ont un enfant. Donc en fait, on les met enceintes de force pour qu'elles aient un enfant. Du coup, quand le veau naît, on va le séparer de sa mère parce qu'en fait, on considère que le lait, c'est pour nous, en fait. Si c'est un veau mâle, on va l'engraisser pendant quelques mois et ensuite le tuer. Et si c'est une femelle, en fait, elle aura la même vie que sa mère. On va la mettre
Et ça
enceinte,
se passe où, ça, ce que vous me dites là?
Partout. C'est partout dans le monde, c'est la même. C'est
Ouais,
le
mais moi je
fonctionnement
suis
standard, en fait.
contre l'intensif, de toute façon.
C'est pas du tout en intensif, en fait, même. En fait, c'est
Je suis
des
contre
pratiques
l'industrie en
standards.
fait. Je suis contre l'industrie
Ouais.
intensive. Ouais.
Mais ça, c'est le fonctionnement standard, même s'il y avait qu'une seule vache, en fait, on est obligé de.
Non, moi je prends chez mon voisin, il fait pas comme ça. Ah non, je peux vous dire, franchement.
Bon,
Ça, ce que vous montrez, c'est pas.
C'est le fonctionnement standard, en fait. Donc,
Ah ben, je peux vous dire que c'est pas comme ça chez mon voisin.
est-ce que vous diriez du coup que. Est-ce qu'on peut se mettre d'accord sur le fait qu'on devrait respecter les autres animaux? Est-ce que vous pensez qu'on.
Oui, bien sûr. Ah oui, moi j'aime beaucoup les animaux. J'adore les animaux, donc.
Attends. J'ai plus le flowchart. Ok, est-ce qu'on peut vraiment du coup respecter les autres animaux si en fait on mange, si on consomme des produits comme de la viande, du lait, des œufs? Si on les
Ça dépend
exploite,
comment c'est fait en fait. Ça dépend comment c'est fait.
Et comment on fait pour exploiter quelqu'un et le tuer contre sa volonté?
Je sais pas
Avec
ça.
respect.
Moi, je suis pas au courant de tout, mais enfin, j'imagine qu'il y a bien des endroits où c'est fait correctement.
Et qu'est-ce que vous entendez par correctement du coup? Comment on fait pour tuer quelqu'un?
Faire attention, faire ça correctement.
Correctement, ça veut dire quoi pour vous?
Je sais pas, mais
Vous
en
savez
tout cas, pas ce que
Est-ce
je suis en train de voir dans ces vidéos,
vous
ça c'est
sentez
sûr.
qu'il y a
Ça,
peut-être
je
une
suis
sorte,
contre ça.
Est-ce que vous sentez qu'il y a une
Clairement.
sorte d'incohérence quelque part, puisque vous n'arrivez pas à voir cette... Comment on peut faire ça correctement en fait?
Ah moi, mais moi,
Comment on fait pour
j'y suis
exploiter
pour rien. Moi,
quelqu'un?
c'est pas moi qui fais ça. Moi, je suis absolument
Bon,
contre
vous,
ça.
en fait, vous êtes pas vegan, j'imagine?
Non. Vegan, c'est quoi?
Vegan, c'est en fait, c'est quelqu'un qui est contre l'exploitation des animaux. En fait, le véganisme, c'est
Ah si, je suis vegan alors. Si, oui, je suis contre. Moi, je suis
le
contre ça.
véganisme, c'est le principe. Vous êtes contre le fait qu'on utilise des animaux comme des ressources?
Ça dépend. oui, c'est vrai que là, enfin, les poissons, par exemple, ça me dérange moins. Les poissons, bon, ouais, on peut considérer que c'est des ressources, mais
Il n'y a pas de différence fondamentale entre un poisson, un chien, une vache. En fait, ce sont tous des animaux sentients, donc des individus qui ont des intérêts. Donc un intérêt à éviter la souffrance et à éviter la mort
vous avez
aussi.
dit des animaux, comment?
Sentients.
Sentients.
Première fois que vous entendez ce
Ouais,
terme.
je connais pas.
Bah voilà, c'est ça du coup. La sentience, c'est la capacité pour les individus d'avoir une expérience subjective du monde, de ressentir des émotions, la douleur, le stress, la joie, puis de tenir à leur vie en fait. Donc c'est pour ça qu'on ne peut pas tuer avec respect quelqu'un qui ne veut pas mourir, parce qu'on va directement contre son intérêt le plus fondamental en fait. Et on accorde une considération à sa vie qui est nulle en fait.
Mais du coup, j'ai pas compris. Qu'est-ce que vous proposez du coup? Qu'est-ce que vous faites vous en fait?
En fait, nous on montre la réalité des pratiques standards de ce que subissent les autres animaux dans toutes les industries qui les exploitent. Et ça, c'est des images où on respecte toutes les normes de bien-être actuelles. Et en fait, on essaye de.
Donc il faudrait plus de bien-être animal en fait. C'est ça, c'est que les normes ne sont pas assez.
Il faudrait respecter les animaux et le seul moyen de respecter les autres animaux, c'est de ne pas les exploiter en fait. Est-ce que vous savez du coup, comme vous disiez que vous étiez pour respecter les autres animaux, est-ce que vous savez ce que c'est le bénéfice à être vegan?
Non. Non.
En fait, pour les animaux, ils n'auront plus à être exploités et tués pour vous, par rapport à la demande que vous générez en achetant ces produits continuellement. Mais pour vous, vu que vous dites que vous êtes pour respecter les autres animaux, en fait, en devenant vegan, vous n'aurez plus à être hypocrite. Parce que vous allez aligner vos actions avec les valeurs que vous dites avoir.
Là, vous êtes en train de me culpabiliser, là.
Je pense que c'est votre conscience qui vous parle. En fait, j'énonce juste des faits. C'est-à-dire qu'en étant non vegan, vous participez activement, vous êtes responsable de ce que vous voyez sur les écrans et du fait que des animaux soient exploités et tués pour vous, en fait. Tant que vous ne serez pas vegan, vous serez responsable de leur exploitation. Et vous pouvez vous demander, si vous étiez à leur place, à quelle vitesse vous aimeriez que cette injustice s'arrête?
Moi, non, c'est sûr, j'aimerais que ça s'arrête tout de suite, ouais. C'est clair.
Ouais. Et du coup, c'est la nouvelle question, celle-là. Du coup, à partir de maintenant, combien d'animaux devraient être exploités et tués pour vous, selon vous? Est-ce que ça devrait être 0 ou plus?
Oui, moi j'aimerais que ce soit 0, oui, c'est sûr.
Ouais. Vous allez devenir vegan à partir de maintenant?
Oula, vous allez un peu vite là. Vous allez un peu vite. Non, non, mais c'est clair que je suis contre ça. J'ai toujours eu un souci avec ça, mais non, il faut que je me renseigne quand même un peu. Ça prend du temps, ça se fait pas comme ça, se fait pas du jour au lendemain.
Okay, et vous venez de me dire du coup que vous vouliez que le nombre d'animaux tués soit de 0. Et tant que vous serez non vegan, des animaux seront exploités et tués pour vous. Donc c'est pas un sujet de réflexion auquel il faut à réfléchir, c'est une injustice. Tant que vous ne serez pas vegan, vous y participerez, vous serez responsable de ça.
On verra, peut-être la prochaine fois qu'on discutera, vous serez plus percutante sur la fin. Et peut-être que je dirai... Non mais c'est pas mal, non, c'est bien, c'est bien.
Non, tu peux te venger maintenant.
Bah ouais, mais je sais pas bien faire les carnistes.
Je dirais peut-être plus.
Ouais, tu fais la VG. En fait, on explique l'élevage tout court. En fait, on explique comment ça fonctionne. Comment on exploite les animaux pour obtenir la chair, le lait, les œufs, etc.
Ok.
Le principe, c'est de s'adresser à des personnes qui sont contre ça. Qui ça fait soit ça vous... Qu'est-ce que vous ressentez vous quand vous voyez ça? Vous m'avez dit que vous étiez contre. Pour quelle raison vous êtes contre?
Non, moi je suis contre l'intensif en fait. Mais ça, je vois ça me rend triste. Mais ouais, c'est.
Vous voulez pas les voir souffrir, c'est ça? Le problème, c'est que.
Bah c'est ça, ouais. Mais en fait.
Est-ce que par exemple le fait de les tuer, ça vous pose un problème ou pas?
Bah ça dépend si on les tue sans souffrance. En fait. Donc là, on tue pas.
Est-ce que par exemple vous seriez capable de les tuer vous-même? Très honnêtement, répondez honnêtement. Ouais, je pense que pas non plus. Et en fait, si vous n'êtes pas capable de les tuer vous-même, c'est que vous avez un problème avec le fait qu'on les tue tout court. Et ce qu'il faut que vous compreniez, c'est qu'en consommant des produits d'origine animale, comme ce qu'on est en train de voir, vous êtes directement responsable de ça. Parce qu'en fait, c'est vous qui payez. Regardez autour de vous, il y a plein de gens qui passent, ils s'en foutent des animaux, ils ne s'arrêtent même pas. Okay,
ouais, mais on mange de la viande depuis la nuit
okay.
des temps, en fait.
Ok, on reviendra à cette question si vous voulez plus tard, mais restons sur les animaux, en fait. Vous avez de l'empathie a priori pour les animaux, vous ne voulez pas de ça pour eux.
Sauf certains, genre les poissons, j'ai pas trop d'empathie pour
Ok, moi non plus, j'ai pas spécialement d'empathie pour les serpents, par exemple, ou pour d'autres, mais pour autant, ça change rien, en fait, sur la manière dont on doit les considérer. Est-ce que vous pensez, vous souhaiteriez que ça s'arrête, ça?
Comme ça, ouais.
Alors je vais vous montrer, je vais vous expliquer pourquoi c'est pas une question d'intensif ou pas. Ce sont les méthodes standards. Tout ce qu'on montre sont les pratiques standards. En France, c'est facile. Vous pouvez voir aussi l'association L214 qui montre exactement les mêmes images. La différence, c'est que nous, dans ces images-là, on ne va pas montrer une personne qui veut mettre un coup de pied à un cochon, par exemple, ce qu'on peut voir dans les vidéos de L214. Parce que ce qu'on veut faire comprendre, c'est que c'est l'élevage qui est une maltraitance de A à Z, en fait.
Mais L224, il montre les pires images.
Ouais, mais en fait, ça montre que on y retrouve les mêmes choses. Donc en fait, ce sont les pratiques standards partout sur la planète. La question, c'est si toi, tu es contre ça, est-ce que tu penses que tu peux consommer et être contre ça? Est-ce que tu penses que c'est cohérent? Est-ce que tu penses que...
En achetant, en fait, moi j'essaie de réduire ma consommation de viande et du coup j'essaie d'acheter.
Ok, tu sais que si jamais le fait de réduire, les animaux que tu vas plus manger parce que tu as réduit ne sont pas dans ces vidéos. Ok, parce qu'on les a pas fait naître. En fait, ceux qui sont dans ces vidéos sont les animaux que tu continues de manger. Donc si tu veux pas de ça pour les animaux, réduire c'est pas une solution. Pour toi, il faut vraiment que tu arrêtes. Qu'est-ce qui te, à ton sens, tu vois, je t'ai montré le lait, je t'ai montré les œufs, tu vois que c'est l'horreur que c'est pour tous les animaux dans tout, dès qu'on soulève, je pourrais te parler du miel, je pourrais te parler de plein de choses, en fait c'est toujours la même. À ton sens, qu'est-ce qui, toi, t'empêcherait aujourd'hui de devenir végane? Est-ce que tu vois
c'est dur, quoi. Enfin, je saurais pas trop... en fait, je suis habituée depuis que je suis petite
à
manger de la viande.
Tu ne seras pas contre?
Je pense pas, mais c'est juste que ça me prendrait du temps. Enfin, c'est compliqué, quoi.
Ok, imagine que tu sais qu'on va probablement y aller parce que tout nous y mène. Il y a de plus en plus de gens qui prennent conscience de ça. Imagine que dans 20 ans, il y a 80% des gens qui sont véganes, 20% qui ne le sont pas. Toi, tu souhaiterais être de quel côté, des 80% ou de ceux qui sont toujours pas véganes? De ce que tu me dis là, vraisemblablement.
Ouais, peut-être
plus des véganes.
Ouais, je pense.
Pourquoi tu attendrais 20 ans pour ça? Si tu veux pas de ça pour les animaux, pourquoi toi tu ferais pas partie des premières personnes?
C'est juste que c'est compliqué, quoi. Enfin, c'est dur
compliqué.
De trouver...
Et si jamais tu te mets à leur place, à ton avis, qu'est-ce qui est plus compliqué? Ce serait toi de changer tes habitudes? On en parlera si tu veux après, en 1 ou 2 minutes. À la fin, tu verras que c'est pas si compliqué que ça. On s'en fait une montagne avant, mais c'est pas le cas. Mais à ton avis, qu'est-ce qui est plus compliqué? Est-ce que c'est pour toi de changer tes habitudes ou pour eux?
Non, pour eux, clairement.
Est-ce que tu sais la raison pour laquelle on leur fait ça, ces animaux? Il y en a une principale. Parce qu'ils ne peuvent pas se défendre. Ouais. C'est un problème de justice. En fait, de consommer, c'est dégueulasse. Et tant que tu ne changes pas tes habitudes, tu seras dégueulasse avec les animaux. Ça, c'est la réalité. Tu vois? Et si tu ne veux pas de ça, parce que je vois en toi que tu es contre ça, il faut que tu changes. Regarde autour de toi, il y a plein de gens qui passent, ils ne s'arrêtent même pas, ils s'en foutent des animaux. Est-ce que tu crois que les animaux ont une chance que ça s'arrête pour eux grâce ou à cause de tous ces gens-là? Non, aucune. Est-ce que tu crois que si maintenant les gens comme toi et moi qui ne veulent pas de ça pour les animaux, nous aussi on continue de consommer, est-ce que les animaux ont une chance que ça s'arrête? Aucune. Leur seule chance, c'est que toi, tu ne veux pas de ça, tu es directement responsable de ça, tu arrêtes de consommer et tu viens du côté de ceux qui ne participent pas à ça.
Et qu'est-ce qu'on va faire des éleveurs, en fait, du coup? Ça,
c'est pas... on leur trouvera un autre métier, t'inquiète pas. Hein. Et je pense, tu vois, par exemple, les gens qui travaillent dans les abattoirs, c'est pas un boulot super sympa. Je vois pas des parents qui se disent « Ouais, chouette, moi j'espère plus tard que mes enfants ils vont travailler dans un abattoir. » Tu vois, il y a beaucoup de métiers qui sont plutôt assez horribles. Et tu vois, par rapport à ça...
Les éleveurs, ils aiment leurs animaux, par contre.
Ça, c'est factuellement faux. Hein. Quand on voit tout ce qu'ils leur font subir, tout ça sont des éléments de langage. Et en fait, évidemment, ces personnes-là ne veulent pas se considérer comme de mauvaises personnes. Si tu regardes bien, la plupart des gens, peut-être 80% des gens sont contre ça, en fait, hein, contre ces images. Pourtant, tout le monde paye pour qu'on continue de massacrer les animaux.
Ouais.
Et si tu étais à leur place, tu voudrais que ça s'arrête à quel... Déjà, je te repose la question, est-ce que tu vois des raisons pour lesquelles qui t'empêcheraient de devenir vegan, toi?
Non, du coup, je pense pas.
Et si tu étais à leur place, tu voudrais que ça s'arrête à quelle vitesse?
Bah, tout de suite.
Ouais. Et je te repose la question, du coup, qu'est-ce qui t'empêcherait de devenir vegan, là, tout de suite?
Rien de spécial, je pense.
Alors, tu vois, je te donne un conseil. Ce soir, tu rentres chez toi, tu prends tout ce qui est dans ton frigo de produits animaux, tu jettes tout.
Ouais, mais j'ai plus rien à manger après.
Ben, après, tu vas te débrouiller, tu vois.
Ouais.
Mais ça veut dire que déjà, tu vois, ça montre déjà que tu consommais beaucoup et que tu participais énormément à ça. Tu donnais beaucoup d'argent, tu payes le salaire de tous ces gens-là. Ouais. Et franchement, leur vie, pour la manger, puis 24 heures plus tard, dans les chiottes, tu trouves que ça valait le coup, ça?
Bah, vu comme ça, ouais.
Mais c'est ça la réalité. C'est ça la réalité.
Ouais.
Moi, je crois que tu fais partie des personnes qui doivent le faire, franchement. Tu sais, aujourd'hui, c'est facile. On va te donner, je vais te montrer une carte, tu vas voir, tu seras aidé, tu as toutes les questions. Il y a une seule chose qu'il faut que tu surveilles, c'est la vitamine B12, à partir du moment où tu deviens végétalienne, hein, ou végétalien ou végétalienne. C'est la seule chose qu'on ne trouve pas dans le règne animal. On a découvert ça il y a 50 ou 70 ans. C'est la solution pour plus tuer les animaux, donc on l'a. Donc à part ça, le reste, voilà, il n'y a plus qu'à. Et je peux te dire que, c'est ce que j'ai dit tout à l'heure, tous les véganes que je connais disent tous que c'est la plus belle décision qu'ils ont prise dans leur vie. Je suis sûr que ça sera la même chose pour toi.
Ok, ouais, bah ouais.
Je te remercie.
Bravo.
I'm not Socratic. I'm not really Socratic. It's a different way, but okay. Je suis plus offensif. Ouais, j'en pose. Yeah, some, but sometimes I stop when she answers. It's wanted. I stop her because okay, I don't want to lose time. Okay, I understand what you write, but yeah, we'll focus on animals. Okay. Yeah.
À la fin, je dirais juste du coup vegan et végétalien.
Oui, c'est ça. Ouais. Et pas parler
t'as dit végétalien à la fin.
Oui, sur le régime alimentaire. J'ai parlé du régime alimentaire.
T'as dit une fois que tu seras végétalien?
Non, vegan.
Non, t'as dit végétalien. Ah, mais j'allais te le dire aussi.
Du coup, bah, en fait, c'est un peu, on oublie tout le reste.
Le régime végétalien.
T'aurais pu dire la même chose
non,
en disant vegan.
Par rapport à la B12 ou?
Oui.
Ouais, mais la B12, c'est par rapport au régime végétalien, c'est pas vegan.
Ouais, mais quand tu dis vegan, ça englobe tout.
Oui, mais d'accord, ok.
Mais ça passait dans le contexte.
Tu peux prendre la B12. Ça englobe tout, alors que si tu dis
I use
végétalien,
plant-based
on oublie le...
because I was speaking of that. Okay, I can say vegan. Ouais, tu as raison. Tout à fait.
And you also talked about another association, another organization.
Yeah.
Like if you go see their images, I'm not sure it's good because it's, we're just like talking about someone else, which, I mean, they're great, we're complementary and they're amazing.
When I spoke about L214? Yeah. Why? Just to answer quickly to the question, it's not the same here. Okay,
Like,
see, it's the same.
That's what I said to him.
Yeah.
We should never say this footage is not from
It's all over
here.
the planet, yeah.
We should say it's local footage.
Yeah.
It's the same practice everywhere.
Yeah.
The knife is the same. I said it like 2 times already. The knife is the same. The gas chambers are the same. You don't need to say this is from Australia or this is not the 214.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. You were great. Yeah, you were great.
Thank you so much. That was
good.
Je veux dire, ça se veut constructif, hein. Mais tu sais, quand tu dis regarde autour de toi, les autres ils passent, ils s'en foutent, alors que toi tu t'arrêtes. Parce que ça ne conforte pas dans l'idée qu'elle en fait déjà beaucoup.
Non, parce qu'après je lui dis, est-ce que si toi, eux, c'est pas eux qui vont faire changer les choses. Toi, t'es contre, mais si toi tu continues de nourrir, ça fera pas changer non plus.
J'arrête de filmer.
Non, c'est juste.